but chose to share it with the authors of a book that's been published and printed and sold nationally?
I think it's a fair question for Cross.
I don't know that she shared it with the author. I don't know that the author was telling the truth. I don't know the author, so I don't know, sir.
Okay. Now, did you give an interview to the authors of that book?
I've given no interview, sir.
So you haven't talked to them at all?
I haven't talked to any media.
All right.
None.
Now, as it relates to the,
I'd like to, though.
as it relates to, so again, from your bank records that you're aware of, there'll be no cash deposits, right?
I didn't say that.
Are there cash deposits which line up with the money that you have allegedly received from Ms. Willis to, quote, pay you back for her part of the trips?
So here's the thing. In my bank records, you will see cash deposits. You will see check deposits. I can't say that you look through the bank records and you won't see cash deposits because I have two sources of income, sir. Income comes from my private practice, my firm, and income comes from the contract here with Fulton County. During the course of private practice, occasionally I will have occasion to deposit cash into my account.
And in preparation for this hearing and your testimony, did you go through your bank records to find out if you could locate any cash deposits that would corroborate your testimony?
No, sir, I didn't go through my bank records at all.
Now, so what you would do, the money that you received, of course, the money that you received from your work for Fulton County, that's public funds, correct?
No, sir, it's private funds. It's my
Public funds pay you to do work for Fulton County, correct?
Tell me what the definition of a public fund is.
A public fund would be your funds, as in not fund, but funds, money. Public money, as in money from taxpayers, either in Fulton County or the state of Georgia, pay you to do the work that you're doing here in this case, yes or no?
One or the other, I'm certain.
Do you know which
is
one?
the case. I don't know which one, no, sir.
Now, you would take those public funds, and those public funds would then deposited in your account, and they were then used to pay on the credit cards for the trips that you would take with Ms. Willis, correct?
I object to the question insofar as the characterization of public funds. The witness didn't testify to that, and I don't believe there's been any evidence to that. Once it's paid to Mr. Wade, it's private funds.
The point of it is that you got
All
money.
right, Mr. Gillen's rephrasing.
Yeah, I'll let's break it down. You got money from Fulton County for the work that you do here, right?
Yes, sir.
You would send in invoices, and they would pay you money, correct?
Yes, sir.
Those money, that were private money, that money was money from either the citizens of Fulton County or from the state of Georgia, correct? That's what I mean by public funds. Agreed?
But I guess I'm having trouble with the notion that the citizens of Fulton County have paid me any funds. I'm not certain the funding source. I can tell you that either the state of Georgia or Fulton County has written me a check.
So that would be, those two entities are public entities, correct?
Yes.
So that would be public funds, right? Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And those public funds are from the same source that you would then use to pay out on your expenses for the trips that you took Ms. Willis on, correct?
No, sir. As I testified to moments ago, I have income coming in from my law firm. I also have income coming in from the funds that we're here discussing now from either the state of Georgia or Fulton County and or both. I'm not certain what it is. So to say,
Sorry,
that,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So to say that I'm paying a credit card statement with funds coming from Fulton County or the state of Georgia would not be an accurate statement because the funds could have very well come from my private practice.
What percentage of your income in 2022 came from money where you're working on this case or from your partners working for the Fulton County office?
In 2022, I would say 50-50.
You think 50-50 in 2022?
Yes, sir.
What about 2023?
Probably 60-40.
60-40.
Yes, sir.
So the money that would be in those accounts, at least 60% of those, in your view, would be public funds, that those monies were then used to pay for the expenses that you had incurred for the trips that you took Miss Willis on, the cruises, the Napa Valleys, the Bahamas, correct? Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now, what you did is that when you signed on in November 1st of 2021, that's when you signed on to be counsel for the anti-corruption matters, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, as you know, in your engagement letter, it doesn't say that you're signing on and your scope of work is to work on the Trump special grand jury investigation, doesn't.
No, sir.
It says that you're signing on to work on anti-corruption, the anti-corruption unit matters, correct?
Yes, sir.
Matters with a plural, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in your contract, there is no specific reference to any specific case. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, but you didn't sign on for the duration. There was a period, you have a contract, and then it would then expire, and then you would have a new contract, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, of course, the extension that you received, the first one was in November of 2021, and then you filed, there was a renewal in November the 15th of 2022. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Oh, okay. Now, that was right after you got re-upped by Miss Willis, right after you took Miss Willis to Aruba. Isn't that right? On that November the 1st, 2022 trip to Aruba and through November the 4th, 2022, correct?
What does re-up mean?
Well, re-up means that you came back, your contract was up, and then on November the 15th, you and Ms. Willis signed a new contract for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you were in taking her to the Aruba and on the cruises and the resort there, did you discuss your re-upping of signing an extension on your contract?
No, sir. But you make an excellent point. I'm glad you pointed that out. So the trip to Aruba, the contract was not in existence then.
So you're saying that you were not
Under contract.
in your contract. Did you send any invoices in for work that you did after your first contract expired?
No, sir.
You did.
No, sir.
No. When that expired, that was it. So and then you're saying that after the Aruba trip, you get re-upped with a new contract, correct?
I signed a new contract. Yes,
Now,
sir.
was there any modifications on that contract? Did you get an extension on the cap that you were limited on the first one? Were there any modifications at all, Mr. Willis? Excuse me, I've done that again. I apologize.
I've been called
Mr.
worse.
Wade, I'm sorry.
I've been called worse.
Now, were there any modifications on that?
Do you have the contracts in front of you where you could?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think that
because I believe as the work gradually, as the time of the work gradually increased, the hourly cap would increase. In other words, starting out the investigation, it was impossible to anticipate the level of cooperation during the course of the investigation from some of the witnesses. So if you assume that there would be great cooperation with the witnesses in terms of interviewing and speaking and being voluntarily speaking with you, it doesn't take as much time. So after getting into it, realizing that most of the witnesses were not willing to speak or willing to turn over evidence or information, quickly you figure out that this is going to take a little more time than originally anticipated. And because of that, you have to compensate for those hours.
And that's why there was a compensation on your extension?
Yes, the caps.
A cap. Now, did Mrs. Willis, did Ms. Willis review your invoices with you when you would submit them?
Never.
Did anyone ever question whether or not you worked 24 hours in one day and billed 24 hours in one day?
I've never worked 24 hours in one day and billed 24 hours in one day.
Okay.
And I'm glad you asked me that question because I'd like the opportunity to talk about that.
I think you should go ahead.
So if you look at that invoice where it says 24 hours in one day, it actually doesn't say one day. If you look at the top of the invoice, it says date completed. The date that's reflected on that invoice reflects the date that the work was completed. It doesn't say when it started. It just says this is the date that is completed. So if you go through the invoices, probably around the first 5 or 6, you'll see that that's the billing format. I would bill only after that particular task has been completed. That's why you see a 24-hour period with the one day there. I kind of wish some of the experts who had opined on that had called me and asked me the question, but there was never a billing of 24 hours in one day. Now, probably around the 6th or 7th invoice, you see the format changed. I started using a range so that it got less confusing, right?
I'm confused, so maybe you can correct it.
Okay.
In Exhibit 14, you've got down a specific date.
Mm-hmm.
Prepared cases for pretrial, November the 5th, 2021, 24 hours at $250 an hour, 6,000. Now, this wasn't about a range. It was about the work that you did on November the 5th, 2021.
No, Mr. Gillen, look at the top of the invoice where it says date completed.
What I want you to do, Mr. Wade, is focus on the date that you have down there and tell the court what you billed for on November the 5th, 2021. I thought it was already in. I thought 14 is in.
Again, Mr. Gillen, it says completed date completed. The dates that you see here are the dates that work was completed. So on November the 5th, I completed the task of preparing the cases for pretrial. That's the date I completed it.
Just read, if you would. Then my question was, read out loud the entry for November the 5th, 2021, and how many hours you billed that day. Just do that for me, if you would.
I can't do that.
Excuse me, I believe the witness is entitled to answer his question. That certainly wasn't the question that Mr. Gillen asked.
All right, well, the question now is to read a certain entry. So
I just read into the record, Mr. Wade, on November the 5th, 2021, how many hours did you bill the citizens of Fulton County for on that day? Just read it out, please.
I completed the task on November 5th, 2021. 24 hours was billed at $250.
Now, when you talked about your relationship with Ms. Willis, and your testimony is that it began in 2022. You remember that testimony?
No, sir. Our relationship began in
Your romantic
2019.
relationship began in 2022? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
That's your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, when you were re-upped on this contract, you had a romantic relationship already established with Miss Willis, yes or no?
In 2022?
You know, when
Yes,
you
sir.
were re-upped on November the 15th, 2022, you had a romantic relationship with Miss Willis.
I signed the second contract. Yes, sir.
Answer my question, please.
I'm not going to use the words
When you
re-up.
signed up on we re-up or whatever you want to call it, your contract on November the 15th, 2022, you had a romantic relationship already existing with Miss Willis, yes or no?
I signed the contract, the second contract. Yes, sir. During the course
No,
of a romantic relationship.
Yes or no, you had a romantic relationship with her at the time that you signed up the extension on November the 15th, 2022, yes or no?
The answer to that question is yes.
Thank you. Now, this was before the special purpose grand jury released a report, isn't that correct? Correct?
Are you asking me if it's before the work was completed or before the special purpose grand jury actually publicly released the report?
When they
Those are
released
two
the
different-
report. Your relationship with Miss Willis already existed when the special purpose grand jury released its report, correct?
At the time the report was released, yes, sir. But
And-
you understand that the report had, the work had been completed prior to the release of the report. You understand that?
And your relationship with Miss Willis, of course, was prior to the indictment in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if I may just ask my folks over here whether there's anything I need to clean up on. That's all the questions, Your Honor, I have. Thank you.
Your Honor, I do have questions.
Well, Mr. State, I don't think we went through.
No, I had asked you the permission, that he was going to go first on this, and then I was going to follow up. That's the deferment was to allow him to go first. That's what I thought I had asked for.
All right, with the understanding next time, we're going to keep going in order and not skip around the order. All right,
That's why I brought it up, because I thought that's what.
Okay. Mr. State.
I'm going to try to keep my questions very specific.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm going to also, of course, try not to go back into specific questions that have already been asked. Okay?
Yes, sir.
When did your relationship with Miss Willis end?
2023.
Can you give us an approximation of, not by date, but by month?
Summer 2023. Forgive me. I'm a man. We don't do the date thing. Summer 23, I would say June, maybe.
Okay. Using the euphemism personal relationship, did you have any personal relationship at all with Miss Willis after the summer of 2023?
I want to make sure that I'm answering your question. Because
Let me rephrase, if I might. The way it has been characterized in, for example, the response of the state, and I believe in your affidavit, is there's a difference between a personal relationship and a professional relationship, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not talking about a professional relationship. I'm talking about a personal relationship. Have you had a personal relationship at all? And you know what I mean by that, after the summer of 2023.
Are you asking me if I had intercourse with the district attorney?
I was trying not to, but I guess if you're going to characterize it as that, the answer would be,
The answer would be no.
so it's been purely professional since the summer of 2023.
So that's where we're having issues.
Okay, you'll have to explain because I don't know what the issue would be.
No, I will explain to
Thank
you.
you.
You say personal. We're very good friends, probably closer than ever because of these attacks. But if you're asking me about specific intercourse, the answer is no.
How about if I change it from intercourse to romantic?
No.
During the direct examination, you made a statement, at least I believe I heard it correctly, that you, personal relationship, and now I'm talking about that characterized the sexual romantic relationship, was not a secret. Is that correct?
Wait. If you're asking me if people knew that we were having sex, no, they didn't.
I'm asking you whether the people knew that you were dating, whether you were romantically involved. You said that it was not a secret.
Oh, it wasn't a secret. It was just private. My mother knew, obviously.
Okay, did anyone in the district attorney's office that has worked on this case know that you were dating or had a romantic relationship with District Attorney Willis?
I don't know what they knew.
Well, did you tell anyone?
No,
Do you have any knowledge of whether Ms. Willis revealed it to anyone?
I have no clue.
Okay. So as far as you know from personal knowledge, no one in the DA's team knew, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if it was a legitimate relationship, is there any particular reason why it was kept secret or private?
Wasn't kept secret. It was kept private.
And the purpose for that was?
It's what we chose to do.
I'm asking you why though, not just because you chose. Why, if you're dating someone, why keep it private?
So, a few reasons. The first one is, and I want to say this respectfully in the right way, there are some people who are in the public eye who just don't like it, don't wish to be there. I have tried to have lunch or dinner with her publicly, and I can't count the number of people that would approach the table or would accost us as we're trying to walk into a restaurant and just have lunch or have a meal. It is not secret, it is private. We don't want the world asking questions or interrupting that time. So we weren't trying to keep anything a secret, Mr. Sadai. There's nothing secret or salacious about having a private life. Nothing.
I'm not suggesting that there was. I'm asking the questions. When you went on the various trips that have been outlined by both Mr. Gillen and by Ms. Merchant, did anyone in the district attorney's office know that the two of you were traveling on personal trips together?
To my knowledge, Mr. Sadai, no.
And again, that was for privacy, according to your testimony.
Privacy, yes, sir.
Okay. Did you and Ms. Willis go to the Hapeville condo prior to your relationship starting, beginning of 2022?
Prior to having physical contact, prior to having intercourse, did we go to the Hapeville condo?
Again, you keep going to intercourse. I'm trying not to, but fine. The answer to that, or my question would be yes. Did you and Ms. Willis go to the Hapeville condo prior to what I want to say November 1st of 2021?
Come on, man.
Yes.
Okay. And the purpose for going to the Hapeville condo with Ms. Willis prior to 2021 would have been what? Or prior to November 1 of 2021?
Could have been any number of things because at that time,
That's what I'm asking. So tell me.
yeah, could have been any number of things because at that time, she had a friend living in that condo. Miss Yeardy lived in that condo.
Okay.
How do you know that? How does he know that detail?
Maybe it was my question was poorly worded. Let me try again.
How does he know
Your
that?
answer is yes, prior to November 1st of 2021, you would have gone to the Hapeville condo and been there with Miss Willis, correct?
Yes.
And you would have been there, as you indicated, for many reasons, right?
Yes.
Can you give me, just list a few of the reasons?
Miss Yurdi resided there, went to visit her, maybe went to talk about a document that I received.
Let me count the
And
way.
you would go to the condo
I
to
needed
talk
to
about
see-
a document that you received?
Absolutely,
Okay, go ahead.
absolutely.
Any other reasons?
Delivering document, he was dropping
None come to
off,
mind.
None come to
he was
mind.
dropping
sir.
off that.
And would you say that it was frequent? When I say frequent, do you think prior to November 1st of 2021,
That's what he
you
was
were at the
doing.
condo more than 10 times?
No, sir.
So it'd be less than 10 times?
Yes, sir.
So if phone records were to reflect that you were making phone calls from the same location as the condo before November 1st of 2021, and it was on multiple occasions, the phone records would be wrong?
If phone records reflected that, yes, sir.
They'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong.
Okay. Where did you live during that time period?
Same place I live now.
Which is not in Hapeville, correct?
It is not in Hapeville.
It is north of Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, correct?
It is.
Okay. And any other reasons why you would be in the Hapeville area on multiple occasions prior to November 1st of 2021?
Let's see. The Porsche Experience is there.
I'm sorry?
The Porsche Experience is there.
Okay, so that would have been one. Any other reason?
Yes, sir. The airport is there.
Airport in Hapeville.
Yes, sir. Delta Airlines is
Okay.
headquartered there. Let's see. Restaurants there.
Okay. Yeah, if that's your recollection, that's fine. I'm not asking you to try to remember everything, but if that's.
Okay.
Okay. Did you discuss your affidavit filed in connection with the response with Ms. Willis?
No, sir.
Did you know, personal knowledge, whether Ms. Willis reviewed your affidavit before it was included with the response?
I have no clue.
So as far as you know, personal knowledge, Ms. Willis did not know what you said in the affidavit.
I didn't give it to her.
That's what I said. You have no personal knowledge.
No personal knowledge.
And as far as you know, no one else has told you that she did or didn't.
I hadn't asked anyone.
We've kind of worked this up a little bit, and the numbers could be off. But according to our numbers, $10,000, give or take, would have been reflected on your credit card statements in connection with things of potential benefit to Ms. Willis, okay? I want you just to assume that. Assuming that there was $10,000 that you had on your credit cards, is it your testimony that Ms. Willis paid you back $10,000 in cash? No, I'm not asking about.
I object, the characterization of $10,000 for Ms. Willis's travel, I don't believe is an accurate reflection of what the numbers, at least the summary that I've been provided by the defense would reflect. I think that's joint travel. And so is that right, Mr. Sater? I'm sorry.
No,
Clarify the question.
it's not joint travel. But all I'm trying to understand, I'll rephrase because I don't want to get bogged down on specific numbers. You would have received thousands of dollars in cash from Ms. Willis, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the thousands of dollars in cash from Ms. Willis, do you know, I'm not asking you whether she took it out of her pocketbook or she took it out of a suitcase. I'm saying, do you know the source of the cash?
Just that, out of her pocketbook. Yes,
You
sir.
don't know where she obtained the cash.
I didn't ask her.
And the whole time that she was paying you in cash, you never said, hey, why do you have this amount of cash?
Why would Mr. Sadow, in my practice, people come into my law firm all the time with cash. I
Put
never
it in my
question where they got it.
pocket.
Yeah, but we're talking
I
not
never
about
asked
people
where
that come
the
into your law
cash
firm. We're
came
talking about the
Where the
district
cash
attorney of
at?
Fulton County, who I'm assuming receives a paycheck. She doesn't get paid in cash.
So just like you assumed, I assumed she got it from her paycheck. I
There
don't
you
know.
go.
Okay, but of course, it's already been, and I'm not going to go back into it. You've not seen any records indicating withdrawals of cash from Ms. Willis at all.
Why would I ask her?
I didn't
No,
ask,
sir.
all I said is you haven't, right?
No, sir.
Okay, now, can you explain why you filed for divorce one day after you were hired by Ms. Willis? You filed on
Nitty-gritty.
November 2nd of 2021. you're hired on November 1st of 2021. Why the day after?
Come on.
You mean one day before? So
You filed for divorce one day after you were hired, right?
okay, I'll answer your question.
Okay, please.
So in 2015, when my wife had the affair, we had a conversation that we would divorce right then. Again, the better practice, at least for my children at the time, was to stay in place until the young.
No, wait a minute. This is the first time we're hearing this right now. Now, Nathaniel. Nathaniel. Nathaniel, get your ass out that tree, boy. Now, Nathaniel, this is Nathaniel Bartholomew from up, Georgia. And Nathaniel Bartholomew then blown up the whole case, everybody. He coming in here with these facial expressions. He coming in here looking completely confused, perturbed, dismayed. He don't know what the hell going on. Who the hell shot John? Why the hell am I here? You know what I'm saying? All I wanted to do was shine up my shiny bald head and let everybody see my shiny bald head one last time. So I'm here with my shiny bald head, you know what I'm saying? And you trying to ask me what about a P and how a P came about, thousands upon thousands of dollars, and how did I get this job? And I keep telling you it had everything to do with intercourse. Now you keep saying you don't want me to refer back to intercourse, but you keep asking me about why did this woman give me thousands of dollars, give me a job, give me slob on my knob. It was the intercourse, of course. Nathaniel, shout out to Nathaniel Bartholomew. He just blown up the case, everybody. That's why I rewinded it. A lot of people showing the live coverage right now, but they haven't done the homework. Do your homework on Perfect Timing Podcast. Do your homework on Perfect Timing Podcast. A lot of people haven't done their homework on the case, but I've been on the case, and I've been the hostess with the mostest and the ghostess with the shostess for the longest and the strongest. You know what I'm saying? So if you go back, and I'm going to link this video to the rest of my Power and Trust playlist. I want you to go check out the Power and versus Trust playlist. Now, what we're looking at today, and thank you to everybody for tuning in and watching. What we watching today is day 2 live testimony of the Fani Willis Trump indictment case, where she and her lover / co-worker was Fani Willis, District Attorney of Atlanta, Georgia, who has indicted Donald Trump on RICO charges, has been subpoenaed to court with her co-worker and lover, adulterous affair, Nathaniel Bartholomew. From up yonder upper room, this is him downstairs with his shiny head. Shout out to Nathaniel Bartholomew with his shiny head. And he just blew up the case. I had to stop for a station identification to let you know why we cased it. It tasted so good. This is Perfect Timing Podcast with the Blast. I got 2 YouTube channels. I really don't be simulcasting on both channels, but what I do nowadays is I'm live on Twitch with your bitch, and I'm live on X with your ex, you know what I'm saying? And I'm giving her the best sex she ever had in her life. That's right, baby. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, as I get with her, and the Perfect Timing Podcast with the Blast on your ass. And you can also find me on Twitch with your bitch. I think it's Perfect Timing Podcast Live. Now, what I need you to do is go find Perfect Timing Podcast Live all over the internet, because I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on everywhere it is, man. Everywhere your bitch at, that's where I'm at, man. And your bitch is all over Snapchat, on my cat. You know what I'm saying? Pause. Yeah, man. But look, what we doing today, day 2. Now, look, I think I got about 3-4 videos on this, Fani Willis. And it might be more if you include the work I did on YSL and Atlanta Public Schools. Because what I've done is I've laid the groundwork for my audience when they see this live testimony. Now, this has got to be like very rewarding for individuals who follow my channel and have been upset with the way certain people during this DEI time have been empowered. You know what I'm saying? As you look at the Harvard case, as you look at cases like Atlanta and the Manhattan District Attorney and what he did with Jonathan Majors. So you look at Fani Willis, who was a member of the Atlanta DA's office. That's why Atlanta Public Schools RICO case is so important, because Fani Willis was a part of the Atlanta District Attorney's office once upon a time, but then she was not. You know what I'm saying? So that gets left out of her career ascension and her resume a lot. The fact that she actually left the District Attorney's office, the fact that when she did leave, and I'm not going to get into why, we've talked about that a lot, but the fact that she did leave the District Attorney's office, right? A lot of people don't know that when she previously with the district attorney, this is Fani Willis, she had a RICO case that was the most expensive case in Georgia history ever. This is Fani Willis history, because it's pertinent, because we're talking about how she spends the money of people in Atlanta, Georgia. This is about the taxpayer dollar and her disregard for the taxpayer dollar and the American taxpayer dollar, which is why I'm saying this DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion style of politics from the Democrats and the liberals has to go, because you end up with people who do not deserve these roles and positions, and this is what they do when they get power. And she has been used as a pawn in this Trump case. And this is the chickens coming home to roost, because what we're looking at today is the result of Fani Willis' lack of ethics and poor judgment. I broke it down to you in a viral video on my channel about Fani Willis' lack of code of ethics and how that would be damning to her. So today, what we're watching today, once again on the Perfect Timing Podcast, is her lover and co-worker, Nathaniel. And Nathaniel just blew up the case. Now, Nathaniel was appointed. Now, what we have so far being said to us is that they had a relationship going back to 2021 prior to him being hired onto the Trump RICO case, right? And there's a couple bombshells we got to establish before we keep going with the ground, keep the ground running. You know what I'm saying? So, couple things. Nathaniel then blew up the spot today. So Nathaniel has said that, number one, we were together before she hired me. Number two, we're no longer together. It's 2024, and Nathaniel just said they broke up in 2023. That was a bombshell. You know what I'm saying? So next, Nathaniel just said, which made me stop for the station identification, is that he's trying his best with the facial expressions in his history as a lawyer and a prosecutor. Now he's interjected into the minds of the public who is watching this in TV land that my wife cheated on me. Nathaniel Bartholomew, give this boy some props, man. He ain't going down without a fight. He ain't going down without a fight. Nathaniel Bartholomew from up yonder, the brother downstairs, him downstairs, brother man Nathaniel Bartholomew. He didn't say that my wife cheated on me in 2015. Now, this can't be made up. It cannot be made up. This is just podcast gold. Now think about this, y'all. We done brought this to you. The story about Fani Willis, who was a no-good district attorney who got fired by Atlanta District Attorney Office, rehired by the Atlanta District Attorney Office, only to prosecute YSL, but then have a conflict of interest because while she was away from the Atlanta District Attorney's Office, she represented the co-founder, Mondo YSL, in the case where she got him acquitted, so she could not participate. Similar to this case right here, right now. This is Fani Willis' MO. Poor ethics, poor judgment, but Atlanta brought her back to work. So now here it is. She been sleeping with this man. Was she sleeping with this man when she was not employed? Because y'all got to think about the timeline when Fani Willis rehired by the Atlantic District Attorney Office. All of this is pertinent and relevant. And now Nathaniel, brother man, upstairs, downstairs, over yonder, he interjected that my wife cheated on me in 2015. 10 years ago, Bartholomew. 10 years ago, my wife cheated on me, and he wants us to interject that and say, we agreed that we would have a divorce in 2015. But for the children's sake, we remain in the same home. Now, this the same wife where he going through a divorce right now, and the same wife that's been subpoenaed Fani Willis into court for having an affair, sleeping with a married man, i.e. her husband, Nathaniel, brother downstairs, right? But he just interjects it and blew up the entire spot. Hey, you guys, just look at the look on his face, looking befuddled, completely confused and dismayed. I have no idea why everybody is wondering about our private lives, where I get my money from. Why are you inquiring about our private lives and where I get my money from? My wife cheated on me in 2015, and we agreed to divorce. We only didn't move out for the kids. And I've been doing my thug thizzle, a wiggle ever since. Despite being a lawyer, despite still being a husband, despite being a father, I've been a rogue dog ass nigga out here on these streets. In these streets, I've been in these streets. Yeah, man, I've been in these streets. And it's okay that I did it because she cheated on me 10 years ago, and we had a 10-year agreement that I would be a pimp and a pimp till I die. Go ahead, Nathaniel Bartholomew. He didn't blown up the case. So now everybody can feel better about the fact that Fani Willis is never going to get taken off of this case, and they going to run Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift style Super Bowl victory on this Trump thing. Because I told you it's get real complicated, because if Trump becomes a nominee, and Trump will become the nominee, what happens if Trump is a Republican nominee and the Democrats run this Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift effect on the presidential election, and they get Trump disqualified? Then who will Biden run again? It's so funny, right? Because they said Trump would do this. They said Trump wouldn't leave. They was afraid that Trump would be some type of dictator, right? Trump won't leave office. We don't believe Trump will leave office. Well, what are the Democrats trying to do? The Democrats know that Biden can't win in an election, so they gonna stop it from being an election. Because if Trump secures the Republican nomination and they take him out, then who gonna be the Republican nominee? Is it back to DeSantis? But anyway, let's get back into this, and let's stay tuned, and let's stay abreast of the issues. What we got so far, okay? Number one, Nathaniel said that they broke up in 2023. Nathaniel also said that this affair occurred, that is not a true affair, because his wife cheated on him in 2015. So he didn't consider his marriage a real marriage, because him and his wife had an agreement that they would divorce in 2015, but they just remained together for the children. This is the statement from Nathaniel, a lawyer, Bartholomew, and he's also the prosecutor on the Trump RICO. Now think about how indignant he is to say these things and to ask that he be afforded this luxury. But Donald Trump can't be afforded the same luxury. Donald Trump wasn't afforded the luxury of privacy when it came to whether or not he had a legal consensual relationship with the woman, and he may have compensated her for some sexual explicit activities. That couldn't be private, right? Somehow they pried into that, and somebody went to jail because he had a private relationship with a woman, right? That was a private relationship Donald Trump had, but here it is, Nathaniel wants privacy, right? Donald Trump isn't privy to privacy, right? But and he wants us to believe the thing that he said. Now think about all the panels that we've been on here lately. Here is a man, and he's trying to say to you that my wife cheated on me 10 years ago. He's trying to excuse poor behavior poor ethics, right, and poor decision making, that this would not be allowed in the sector from no man on any panel that we've been on panel with, that you would come on the panel and say, well, I made a poor decision because over 10 years ago, we would stop you right there. As a man, I think about this, not only as a man, but he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer and he's on the stand. He swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And he sounds like a child and he looks like a clown with that shiny peanut ball head. And he wants us to believe that his behavior is not beyond reproach because his wife cheated on him. If that is true, sir, then why is the divorce occurring now, 10 years later, the way it is? None of it is believable. It's actually laughable. And when you factor in the fact that this is the person prosecuting the president of the United States on RICO charges, then you start to think about, wait a minute, it's not funny anymore. This is not funny anymore because this person is obviously unqualified for the task. It's not about whether or not you think Donald Trump is guilty of tampering in Georgia. It's now come down to what is actually happening when DEI affects the case where if you do believe that Trump is guilty, you would actually want someone with the ability to prosecute the case successfully. So I believe people on both sides are upset. I believe people on both sides of the aisle are upset. People who believe that Trump is innocent and people who believe that Trump is guilty and wanted a successful trial. And looking at Fani Willis drop the ball again. This was a slam dunk. Why did you hire him? This was not the focus for anybody who had empowered Fani Willis from the Democratic platform standpoint. This was not the focus. Your relationship with this man, elevating his visibility, you know what I'm saying, was not the focus. Going on trips was not the this is what happens all the time. A lot of time they celebrate too soon. You eating the bread before it was baked. Fani Willis was going on trips and being in love and celebrating and living life as if she was victorious already, because the story, much like the 49ers, is already written. See, we think it's going to be a real election in 2024, but I keep telling you that there's a positioning and a changing coming in 2030. Bill Gates, Davos, they've already said America won't be a superpower by 2030. Now, one of the things I've been saying for the past 2 years, as I've been saying this, is I never understood that how we would get there. But imagine having a 90-year-old president. Biden will be president until 2028, and he will be at a place. Okay, let's say now, all of the arguments people have about Biden, factor in 4 years, where will he be mentally and physically? Without any insult. This is what we're talking about. This is how we get to the second place, third place in the globe, right? Is that we have a 9, and then everybody, right now we're not thinking about it, but in 2028, it will be so many comedians and so many jokes as they see him walk across the stage. He will look like a king because it will be so many qualified younger people, and people will begin to ask, why did we do this? Why did we make this man at this age be the president? It isn't the question of whether or not he had the capability, but we had so many younger people qualified. It don't make sense that we made. Yeah, I'm live on a couple channels right now. I got a couple things going. It don't make sense that we would empower Biden, but we not thinking about that in 2024. We didn't got distracted by so many things, so we not thinking about what it looks like in 2028. Not just what it looks like financially, but globally, because we got so many conflicts going on right now. Right, I've been telling y'all about the stock market. I've been telling y'all about BRICS. I've been telling y'all about Brexit. We've been having these conversations. This no longer is a local conversation. Not in 2024. You know what I was thinking about the other day is that the fact that we're in the 20th century. And a lot of the shit that people be doing be 19th century shit, because we got baby boomers. Like 60% of the population is baby boomers, and they come from the 19th century. So it's a lot of old school thinking keeping us in the past, keeping us from going to Buck Rogers and Lightyear, Buzz Lightyear. This is what's happening, right? and the products of those people, right? Because that's who in control. So I want you guys to think about that as you think about this case and what we're actually fighting for. And have you thought about what it looks like if Donald Trump is not able to run for president? Because Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. So who will be the person running against Biden? And is that America? Does that give you the opportunity to make a choice? How do you feel? Do you feel like you're white if they take away your choice now? Because most of the time, white people have been okay with black people and their limited choices, right? This is why we call it the prison pipeline, right? So how do you feel as the most privileged person in the world, even if you were pro-Biden, how do you feel that they don't trust you to make the right decision? That they would take away your choice? Like, I don't know if anybody's really thinking about it. What really happens with this? Why is Nathaniel testifying? Why is Fani Willis in this situation? You know, she still has to appear in front of Congress. It's going to get worse. The leader of the Republicans in Congress has subpoenaed her, and he wants to ask the same questions that's being answered here today. This is just the first appearance. This is just the first go round. This is just the first, because these are not small things. And now this gentleman has said, and I believe this will bite him in the butt, that we should not be concerned because my wife cheated on me in 2015. I think that's absurd. I think that goes to his character. I think that goes to his character, his ethics, and his ability as a prosecutor. That you would even for 1 second think that it would be okay to interject the fact that you women could cheat. It's like women are not allowed, like men, and like a woman can't have a mistake and you guys stay married. That doesn't qualify you or give you permission to be promiscuous in this marriage simply because you said that she cheated in 2015. That is absurd, sir. And you should know that as a prosecutor and a lawyer. You interject your wife cheated in 2015 and you want us to excuse your behavior in 2022 and 2023 when it comes to a RICO case involving the former president. That's just so ludicrous and it makes me embarrassed. We all should be embarrassed that it looks like me, that this clown looked like me and he's interjecting his argument from his position. You are a prosecutor. You want us to believe that you are a famed prosecutor, and that's your argument. No one told you don't present that as an argument in 2024. Post everything about men, masculinity, and patriarchy. You gonna say it's the woman's fault? It's your wife, and she's still your wife, and still the mother of your kids. To this day, right now, y'all ain't got the final divorce. So this woman is still your wife, still by your side, as you cheated on her, still the mother of your kids, and you're gonna say all this is okay. You guys are overreacting because she cheated. That is preposterous. Absolutely preposterous.
This could graduate and matriculate into college. We did that. When she graduated, matriculated.
Records would be wrong?
If phone records reflected that, yes, sir.
They'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong.
Okay. Where did you live during that time period?
The same place I live now.
Which is not in Hapeville, correct?
It is not in Hapeville.
It is north of Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, correct?
It is.
Okay. So, and any other reasons why you would be in the Hapeville area on multiple occasions prior to November 1st of 2021?
Let's see. The Porsche experience is there.
I'm sorry?
The Porsche experience is there.
Okay, so that would have been one. Any other reason?
Yes, sir. The airport is there.
Airport in Hapeville.
Yes, sir. Delta Airlines is
Okay.
headquartered there. Let's see. Restaurants there.
Okay. Yeah, if that's your recollection, that's fine. I'm not asking you to try to remember everything, but if that's
Okay.
Did you discuss your affidavit filed in connection with the response with Ms. Willis?
No, sir.
Did you know, personal knowledge, whether Ms. Willis reviewed your affidavit before it was included with the response?
I have no clue.
So as far as you know, personal knowledge, Ms. Willis did not know what you said in the affidavit.
I didn't give it to her.
That's what I said. You have no personal knowledge.
No personal knowledge.
And as far as you know, no one else has told you that she did or didn't.
I hadn't asked anyone.
We've kind of worked this up a little bit, and the numbers could be off. But according to our numbers, $10,000, give or take, would have been reflected on your credit card statements in connection with things of potential benefit to Ms. Willis, okay? I want you just to assume that. Assuming that there was $10,000 that you had on your credit cards, is it your testimony that Ms. Willis paid you back $10,000 in cash? Now, I'm not acting about.
I object. The characterization of $10,000 for Ms. Willis's travel, I don't believe is an accurate reflection of what the numbers, at least the summary that I've been provided by the defense would reflect. I think that's joint travel. Is that right, Mr. Sater? I'm sorry.
No,
Clarify the question.
it's not joint travel. But all I'm trying to understand, I'll rephrase because I don't want to get bogged down on specific numbers. You would have received thousands of dollars in cash from Ms. Willis, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the thousands of dollars in cash from Ms. Willis, do you know, I'm not asking you whether she took it out of her pocketbook or she took it out of a suitcase. I'm saying, do you know the source of the cash?
Just that, out of her pocketbook. Yes, sir.
You don't know where she obtained the cash.
I didn't ask her.
And the whole time that she was paying you in cash, you never said, hey, why do you have this amount of cash?
Why would Mr. Sadow, in my practice, people come into my law firm all the time with cash. I never question where they got it.
Yeah, but we're talking not about people that come into your law firm. We're talking about the district attorney of Fulton County, who I'm assuming receives a paycheck. She doesn't get paid in cash.
So just like you assumed, I assumed she got it from her paycheck. I don't know.
Okay, but of course, it's already been, and I'm not going to go back into it. You've not seen any records indicating withdrawals of cash from Ms. Willis at all.
Why would I ask her?
I didn't
No,
ask.
sir.
All I said is you haven't, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, can you explain why you filed for divorce one day after you were hired by Ms. Willis? You filed on November 2nd of 2021. You're hired on November 1st of 2021. Why the day after?
You mean one day before? So
You filed for divorce one day after you were hired, right?
okay, I'll answer your question.
Okay, please.
So in 2015, when my wife had the affair, we had a conversation that we would divorce right then. Again, the better practice, at least for my children at the time, was to stay in place until the youngest could graduate and matriculate into college. We did that. When she graduated, matriculated into college, at the time, my wife had moved back and forth to Houston, to Texas. So she's in Texas. We take our child off to college. We come back to Georgia for a brief period of time. Divorce gets filed. She gets served. There we go. Now, the reason that date was selected,
Yes, sir. That's what I asked.
the specific reason that specific date was selected was because she was only in town.
I'm gonna object, Your Honor, this is attorney-client privilege. Why he decided to file his.
And why do you have the right to object on his behalf for attorney-client privilege?
Because,
Well, I don't make formal.
All right, there we go. And
I believe that he's already attempted to answer this question and there was no privilege raised. So he's given a partial answer and now he's about to finish that. So first of all, I don't think it's covered by attorney-client privilege and I'll deal with that if you want me to. But otherwise, he's already answered part of it. So he doesn't get to say, now I'm going to stop. So.
well, it was a long preface, but I don't think it ever actually got to what might have been an issue there. So if you can lay the foundation, we'll deal with the objection.
Okay. Take a step back. Okay. You realize that an attorney-client privilege is the privilege of the client, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you, in connection with your representation, at least has been proffered to the court by Mr. Bradley, that it's up to you to decide whether you want to raise the privilege, right?
Yes, sir.
It's not up to Mr. Bradley.
Yes, sir.
So you have the power, in order to get to the truth of the matter, you have the power to waive the attorney-client privilege, do you not?
I believe that's an appropriate question. Certain the privilege is there.
Whether he uses it or not, it doesn't matter why. Mr. Sato, I think if we're trying to get to the answer to your question, let's figure out whether it covers the question you were trying to get to.
And if I may finish, and your position is you have no intention of waiving your attorney-client privilege, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so now, can you answer the question why you waited until November 2nd, the day after you were hired by Ms. Willis, to file for divorce?
I can.
Okay.
So, again, Joycelyn had relocated to Texas, and she had been in Texas for months. She was only here for a brief period of time to drive my daughter's car back with her. And when she came here to do that, I was able to then get her served.
Okay, so your answer as to why you waited until the day after you were hired by Ms. Willis, which would be November 1st, 2021, to file the complaint for the divorce on November 2nd, 2021. Your testimony under oath is because your wife was here, but had not been here in October, had not been here in September, had not been here in August of 2021.
She had been in Texas taking care of her ailing mother and
your testimony,
aging father. So the first opportunity that I had after speaking with my lawyers to take care of that was the date it was filed and served, because she happened to be here. It had nothing to do with, that was purely coincidental, that contract.
I understand it's purely coincidence, your testimony.
Yes, sir. And understand that this was by agreement between she and I, she being my wife and I, that we would divorce when the children matriculated out, and that there would actually have been an agreement attached to the filing. It became apparent that the agreement wasn't going to happen, and things got a little contentious. So that's when the privilege would kick in, and I was forced to do it when I did it.
So if I understood correctly, again, you tell me if I'm wrong. Is it your testimony that your wife was not in Atlanta, Georgia, or the metro area throughout October of 2021?
No.
That's not your testimony?
In October of 2021, she was back and forth between here and Texas.
Okay. So she was, at least on some occasions, in the Atlanta area.
But that was during the time when we were working through the consent agreement that fell through.
Again, I think we're pretty far afield on relevance. The answer to the question about the timing of the divorce filing.
Understood, Ms. Cross. Mr. Sato, where are we going from here?
Right, we're about to finish this area, since I'm not going to be able to go any further about, if we want to call the X, we'll call the X for that purpose.
Please.
Well, we'll have to discuss whether that's a collateral issue altogether.
No, I'm just saying if. I didn't say we will, but we'll.
Okay.
All right, so you said that you were aware of the contracts that Mr. Bradley and Mr. Campbell had with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how did you become aware of those?
Just through conversation. They
With
told me.
who? Conversation with who?
Mr. Bradley and Mr. Campbell.
So you were discussing matters with Mr. Bradley which were not related to attorney-client privilege, correct?
Related to the contracts, yes.
Okay, but you were having conversations that would not, even though, if I understood correctly, Mr. Bradley was your attorney at the time, correct?
At what time?
At the time that Mr. Bradley received his contract from Fulton County, which would have been beginning of January or in January of 2021, right?
Is that the date of his contract?
Pretty close.
I don't know what the date of his contract was, but if it was after the date of the filing of the divorce, then yeah.
I'm not talking about after the date of the filing of the divorce. it's been represented to the court that you had an attorney-client relationship with Mr. Bradley from 2015 forward,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
When Mr. Bradley received his contract with Fulton County, that was in 2021, correct?
I don't know.
We can prove that through other evidence. But at the time that Mr. Bradley was doing work for Fulton County, if I understand, you still had an attorney-client privilege, at least you're claiming one, with Mr. Bradley, correct?
Are y'all
Yes.
following this?
So when you talk to Mr. Bradley about matters with his contract in Fulton County, those were not covered by your attorney-client privilege, correct?
They were not.
Okay, and that meant that not all communications with Mr. Bradley were covered by attorney-client privilege, correct?
Well, those certainly weren't.
Well, but my question was, not all communications with Mr. Bradley were covered by, at least as you've been represented to the court, by the attorney-client privilege, correct?
Those communications were not.
So there were communications outside of the attorney-client privilege, correct? With Mr. Bradley.
If you're asking me if I ever communicate with him outside of the attorney-client privilege, the answer is yes. I
Okay.
communicated with him outside the attorney-client privilege.
All of them are, it's a clown show. It's a flipping clown show in Atlanta, Georgia. It is a flipping clown show in Atlanta, Georgia. So come to find out, now think about this. He interjects 2015. He interjects 2015 because now he wants you to take part in partying this so-called agreement with his wife because she cheated 10 years ago. And turns out there was a lawyer involved, and that lawyer has come to be a co-worker and colleague of his, working with him in the Atlanta DA's office. Now, this lawyer and Nathaniel Bartholomew, have attorney-client privilege going back to 2015 in this so-called arrangement with his estranged, cheating wife. But then he comes to be employed as a colleague and co-worker. What's this attorney-client privilege still in play? It's a conflict of interest all over the board. They keep doing it. These people should not be practicing law. Imagine if this person was a doctor or a surgeon and this was their ethics, their code of ethics. No one would let them with the knife take a needle and cut them. But that's what you would let this lawyer prosecute the former president of the United States? Absolutely not.
Let's finish this up. And did you call it Roman number 4? Which is defense. Okay, in defense exhibit number 4, and Mr. Gillen went over with you your responses to certain interrogatories on May the 30th, 2023. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Not going back into those, the words in the interrogatories are already in evidence, so we're not going to do that. But the ones that we've gone into, there were 2 of them. And your answer to both of those was none, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on January 25th of 2024,
Yes, sir.
you again were in a position that you answered those same interrogatories, the 2 that we're talking about. I can get specific if we need to, but as long as we understand we're talking about the same 2, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they are in defense exhibit number 6, and they are interrogatories number 4 and number 5.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now I want you to be able to see it. So it's a defense exhibit number 6.
I don't.
See, you have 6 up there. I'm told that you have 6.
Okay.
Here we are. Okay. You would agree with me that in Defense Exhibit number 6, and we're talking about interrogatories of January 25, 2024,
Yes, sir.
that as to interrogatory number 4, that's the same interrogatory, same words that were in the interrogatory that Mr. Gillen went over, which was dated May 30th of 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your original response in Defense Exhibit number 6 was none, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your updated response was the plaintiff declines to respond to this interrogatory and asserts his privilege pursuant to OCGA section 24-5-505, correct?
Yes, sir.
You know that 24-5-505 breaks down into two privileges, right?
Which is why I was specific. I said I asserted the privacy privilege.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. But in your updated response, there's no reference to privacy, correct?
Yes, there is in the code section 24-5-505.
Okay, but it also,
Reference to privacy.
just go with me, okay? That code section says, does it not, no party or witness shall be required to testify as to any matter which may incriminate or tend to incriminate such party or witness, or which shall tend to bring infamy, disgrace, or public contempt upon such party or witness. You'd agree with that, right?
I'm not reading it.
I'm sorry,
I'm not reading it. I don't have it in front of me.
if I may.
Mr. Sano, we can, I can take judicial notice. That is what the rule says if you want to ask him any follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. You are not claiming that your answer to number 4, interrogatory number 4, on January 25th, 2024, incriminates you, that is, as in Fifth Amendment privilege, right?
That's correct.
You're claiming the second part, that it would bring infamy, disgrace, or public contempt, correct?
I'm going to object to that. I don't think that's the full thing, but, and also the witness doesn't have it in front of him, so I don't know how you could respond to that. I think he's said several times privacy is why he invokes that statutory.
Overruled.
I'm claiming privacy.
The privilege that you make reference to is to infamy, disgrace, or public contempt upon the witness, right? Or party. That's the section that you were relying on, correct?
If that's what it says, yes, sir.
Okay, look. I could show you, but I think the court has already indicated he can take judicial notice of the statute. So you assume that what I'm telling you is accurate, okay?
Yes, sir.
How would an answer of none bring infamy, disgrace, or public contempt upon you?
So as I explained in direct of Mr. Roman's counsel, the minute she elected to intervene into my divorce proceeding, I then started to understand the bigger picture, which was that all the attorneys in the election interference case were colluding with Joycelyn's divorce lawyer. And because of that, I said, privacy. I don't want my divorce proceeding to bleed into this criminal proceeding. I just didn't want that.
So you raised a privilege, if I understand, that indicated that your answer would bring infamy, disgrace, or public contempt upon you, right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance of this. It's been asked and answered several times.
Mr. Sano, where are we heading with this?
I think I can finish that up by saying you didn't say none again. You asserted a privilege, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you did the same thing, did you not, with number 5?
That's correct.
That is, you didn't say none again, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is the answer to the interrogatory number 4, if you have it in front of you, is the answer none? Is that the truth?
The answer is to that interrogatory is as I placed it at the time I responded, sir.
I'm asking you now, is the answer to that interrogatory
The answer
none?
the answer is still privilege.
So he's apparently electing to apply the same privilege, Mr. Sano, to that exact same question.
And I have a case which indicates that we can get beyond that if the court deems that appropriate.
And to what end? To what end? Where
That the privilege actually does not apply and he must answer the question.
and where does that get us? Even if he answers the question, hasn't he already kind of said everything he has to say about the nature of the relationship, how long it lasted, when it ended?
No, I think it would prove, I think if he is forced or compelled to answer the question, he will either answer it falsely by saying none, or he answers it truthfully by saying yes, and then telling us what it is. That's what I believe. That's why I'm asking.
But the interrogatory you're referring to, though, the question contained there,
Two interrogatories, yes, sir.
it's the entertaining one, it's whether there were other relationships, right?
With the specific language that's in the interrogatories.
Sure. Haven't we already covered that in all the other questions that we've had so far?
We have, but again, the court could, if I could require or compel an answer from him as to whether his answer would still be none, then we would know whether or not he was telling the truth now. If the answer is no, then obviously there was a time in the past where he was not. It simply requires him to now answer under oath what he refused to answer and claimed, what I might suggest, is a bogus privilege, and that you can pierce that privilege because it's a material fact in connection with this case. Again, it's a call that Your Honor makes. I have case law that says you can do that, but it's your discretion.
Ms. Cross?
Your Honor, Mr. Vice on the stand now for several hours. He's been asked and answered very personal questions that I believe cover the issues. Mr. Acedo is making an argument, and this is probably an argument to make for the later to the court and not a question to propound.
So as I see it, the only relevance these interrogatories have to this case really whatsoever would be as either prior inconsistent or consistent statements. And to that end, I think the question has been put to him again and again and again. He's answered how he believes he felt his answer should be and why he answered a certain way. And as it goes to credibility, I think at this point we're arguing weight, and I don't really see the value in pushing this issue further. So,
All right, well, just for the record, the case that I was going to refer to is State versus Wakefield at 324 Georgia Appeal 587. And specifically, let's see, it would be 590, in which they talk about this specific privilege. This is a 2013 case, and then they footnote to footnote 3. And footnote 3 says, there are times when the materiality of the evidence outweighs the testimonial privilege. And it goes and explains what that is. That's what I'm bringing up.
and I see what you're saying, that we could say that you need to answer the question regardless of the privilege you asserted. At this point, though, I think we've covered that ground and we're ready to move on.
Okay, based on that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McCullough, anything on behalf of Mr. Floyd? Moving through defense counsel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm looking behind you.
I
Mr.
thought so,
McCullough,
okay.
on behalf of Mr. Floyd, he's elbowing you, sir. Okay. Mr. Cromwell.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Cross.
Thank you. Mr. Wade, have you still got exhibit number 14 in front of you? That's the one with all of the invoices, I believe.
I believe I have them all.
All right. So you were asked, Mr. Wade, about a couple of the invoice items. And your testimony, I think, was that the percentage of income post special counsel appointment in November 2021, the percentage of your income roughly after that time was about 50-50 Fulton versus other income from your law practice, correct?
Roughly, yes, ma'am.
Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yes, ma'am.
How about your time? I'm interested in the percentage of your time from November 2021 to, let's say, the close of the special purpose grand jury when it was dissolved in January 2023. Can you estimate for us the percentage of your time that was spent on Fulton County work versus other work?
Oh, gosh. 99.1. 99% of the time.
We're gonna move to Fani Willis getting on the stand, and we're gonna see what Fani Willis herself got to say. We just heard Nathaniel, her lover, colleague, and co-worker who she employed, basically try to debunk the whole case by saying and implying that they had the number one, a couple bombshells. Nathaniel said they are no longer together, that they broke up in 2023, that the relationship was not private. The relationship was not a secret, but the relationship was private, and that the relationship should not be an issue because it's private and because he was estranged from his wife because she cheated on him in 2015. But lawyers also brought in further improprieties that Nathaniel had conflict of interest with a lawyer who became his co-worker later on, right? So huge bombshells. Nathaniel interjects some type of agreement with his wife. We keep hearing about this affair and the marriage and the divorce. Nathaniel today is attempting to clear that up by saying that his wife cheated on him in 2015. They had an agreement to divorce. They just simply hadn't got the divorce.
Do you swear me, Your Honor?
He's trying to clear up all of this nonsense about an affair because his wife cheated on him, and he had perfect right to speak with Fani because it was a private relationship before she decided to hire him, right? And the money given to him was given to him by her for paying back for trips. So now we got Fani Willis on the stand. Let's check it out.
All right, we are back on the record. Deputy Scott, if you could swear in our next witness.
I would, and I do apologize. Hannah, do me a favor. Put them underneath some of these glasses. After you swear me, tell me what it is. Swear, you can go ahead and swear me, so I don't know what the for.
You swear on front of the
Yes, sir.
Okay, the first name.
District Attorney Fani, Fani. Last name is Willis.
Ms. Willis, how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people I was pacing in my office.
Okay.
And I heard someone yell, "This testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be the next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
Wow, you guys, share the show.
All right, so that was it, just the argument. No
Fani
testimony.
Willis on the stand going in. Let's go.
This morning, where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued. But since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion.
Wow.
So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Wow.
Okay, but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not.
I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and
Did you read it or not, Fani?
I've probably said some choice things to him about
You.
some of the lies they were told.
What?
And been printed in the media because, we used to be in a date and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information, and you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
Oh,
I
my
just want to make sure that
goodness.
you answer the question I asked though. So my question
Answer the
was,
question.
Been asked already.
Answer the question.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is. And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
you did not. Correct.
Is there something you didn't understand?
No, I just wanted to make sure that you did not have a meeting with him in the conference room to discuss the motion.
Next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office, within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure who's given it to him by me or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any conversation with him that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He sent me very nice sermons that have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon? Things of that nature.
Oh my
And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Okay. Let's start back in 2019.
Yep.
So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. And I think in one of your motions, you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr.
How
Wade
we
was my
know?
teacher. I did
How
not
we
see
know?
him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reeves, who was
When
a
did you
judge.
fuck him in?
Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up and they hug each other. They have some brief conversation. She introduces us.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We kind of thought that when you asked the question, you did answer the question, not a speech, so I object to the speech.
I was not able to explain my answers.
Thank
At
you.
least she's able to explain her answer.
And that's,
Ms. Merchant, that's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you to listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question.
Come
And
on,
keep the answers
Judge.
confined to the question as best you can. I
Get
think you'll have
control
more
of
than
your
enough
courtroom,
opportunity
Judge.
on when the state.
Well, it's highly offensive when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate
She
that you
not gonna
slept with
stop.
somebody the first day you
She
met with
not
them,
gonna
and I
stop.
take exception to it.
Podcast go, baby.
The opportunity to explain all of that when it's the state's turn to ask more open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Ms. Merchant.
thank you, Judge. So again, my question was, you all met at that conference though, right?
We did the meeting. He, as I stated, he taught the
Yes or
class.
no?
I did not actually
Yes or
meet
no?
him when he taught the
Come on,
class.
lawyer, get her in check.
I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that
Yes
exact
or
class
no?
or we went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule, like outside of the class. Me and Judge Reeves were having a conversation
We
She
didn't ask
worked at
you
a law
about
firm I
Judge
worked
Reed's
at
conversation.
back in 1996.
We're getting way
Get
far. I mean, I don't mind her explaining her answers, but I literally just asked if they met at that
She's
conference.
explaining how she met Mr. Wade, which was
Just
exactly
say yes or
the
no.
question asked by Ms. Merchant.
It was,
These answers are more than appropriate.
Ms. Merchant, if you want more concise answers, perhaps you could lead the witness.
I will. Thank you, Judge. Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade in October
I'm
2019
gonna
at the
object.
judge's
We
conference?
haven't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostily in this situation.
I think we
And
have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be.
Not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, would be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed.
Treat her like a hostile witness.
Thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary,
You won't shut up.
contrary to
You
democracy.
need to be put
not
in
to mine.
contempt.
Are.
Judge, I would just ask that we,
Keep things moving. Ms. Merchant,
Thank you.
next question,
Thank
please.
okay, so we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I
No.
get to explain my answers.
No.
When I met him,
Woo,
Judge
get her in
Reeves
check. This
introduced
is
us.
going off the rails.
He handed me his business card.
This is
I'm unsure if I
awesome.
handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever
We
need
don't
any help,
care,
give me a
Fanny.
call. And
Yes
he
or
walked
no?
to the parking lot.
So
Thank you,
after,
Fanny.
after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Um,
Win there,
do
Fanny,
you know
win.
Robin Yurdy?
I know her as Robin Bryant. I knew her. So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college of, I went to Howard University. She went to Morgan State. I met her through some people I knew. In college, we hung out a bit, not much because she was in Baltimore and I was in Washington, D.C. But we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her. I probably didn't see Robin again until maybe 7 or 8 years ago, a chance meeting here in Atlanta, but we did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her. So she
So
was in Atlanta.
you have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, Matt?
Yes, and I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years. we certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the DC area. She would come home, we partied together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together. And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. So we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it down the timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Up until she left your office.
Yes, ma'am.
During 2019, you all were friends, correct?
Yes, we knew each other in 2019.
During 2020, you all were friends, correct?
We were friends during that time period.
During 2021, you all were friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And such good friends that when you needed a place to stay, you asked her if you could take over her lease.
That's a lie.
You did
That's
not
not
move into her apartment?
I
or her
did, but
condo?
that's not the way you characterize it is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April of 21. The circumstances around that were that Robin met her husband. They wanted to move into another and separate place. She wanted to get rid of her condo. My father was living with me at the house. Because of this case and because of my stance on gangs, my life was being threatened regularly. My father urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she met, who eventually became her husband. And so, as life circumstances work, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she didn't, have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so, I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I moved in and take over her lease.
And did you pay her or did you pay the leasing agent?
No, I don't even know who the leasing agent was. I paid her.
You paid her. Did you pay her cash or did you use card?
There were some times that I would give her cash, but mostly I paid her via Cash App. That would be the most convenient thing. So I would not only give her her rent, but then like when the utilities would come in, whatever the utility was, she might be like, I need $70, I need $100, whatever it was. And we never had a problem with money. Whatever she told me it was, I never asked to see a bill. I never questioned her. I just gave it to her.
What percentage would you say you paid cash versus Cash App?
Oh, the vast majority was Cash App. I don't know what percentage. I'm not going to guess that. But the vast majority was Cash App. But there would be times she would say, this bill came in at $70. Here goes $70.
Did you have a monthly rent amount that you paid her?
I can't remember. It was $1,500. I can't remember what it was. And it would vary, which I don't understand to this day. But like I said, I never questioned her.
When did you
Whatever
move out?
she said it was, that's what I paid.
When did you
I
move out?
abruptly moved out in February of either late January or early February of 22.
It's very sticky.
Yes,
February
Very
2022, is that what you said?
January, February of 22. I
Very
believe it is
sticky, guys.
January, but I paid her half the rent of February of 22 is what I remember. And because I was offering to pay the whole rent, even though I didn't live there, I didn't think it was right. I ended up just paying her half the rent.
So that's after you moved out. You said you paid her half the rent. Okay. And the time that you said you had to
Only
move
pay
out of your
half the
house,
rent,
you were
y'all.
scared.
Only
Did
pay
you guys
half the
stay
rent.
there at your house?
My father was concerned. Yes, we were both concerned.
Okay. But he remained there.
My father was 80 years old. He would have been 79. He was scared to death of COVID. You have to go back to when this was. My father's an older man. I wanted him to move out. We had some discussions about him moving out. And what he decided was the risk of COVID
Yes or no,
was more
ma'am?
dangerous than the risk of the people that were threatening. Typical man, more worried about his
Yes
daughter
or
and his
no, ma'am?
grandchildren than his own safety. You'll get to meet him and you'll understand he doesn't scare too easily.
So your grandkid or his grandkids were living at the house as well at that time?
Well, I don't know how old your children are, but when you have adult children, they leave and they come back. They leave and they come back. So there have been periods of time that they're there, they come, they do whatever they want to do. Children do what children do. As long as their mother has a house, they'll come to it. Unfortunately, now the threats because of this case have gotten so extreme. I just pay a mortgage and no one lives there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So when you moved out in, I think you said April 2021, you left your dad and your two kids at the house?
My dad and my two kids were not at the house.
They were not. Okay, so they didn't still live at your house.
What case?
My youngest daughter certainly did not live there.
Okay.
My oldest daughter would come back and forth. I can't say month for month when she was there or when she was not there. I know that she has been there post me moving out. At this time, no one is at my house.
So at some point after you moved out for the safety reasons, at least one of your children did come
Ms.
back to the
Merchant,
house.
can we get to the
Yeah.
relationship and the
Sure.
financial benefit?
Yes. Let's see, we were back at 2021. So you were still friends with Miss Yeardy then. Were you also friends with Mr. Bradley?
I've never been friends with Mr. Bradley.
You've never been friends with Mr. Bradley?
No, I don't consider us to be friends. I don't dislike Mr. Bradley, but I don't consider us to be friends.
Is he someone that you would have in your phone and you would message with?
I might have text messaged him.
Okay. Would you text message him and Mr. Wade on the same conversations?
I don't recall doing that, but if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so that wouldn't surprise you, the three of you. Okay. How frequently would you think that the three of you would have texted
Not
in a
very,
group chat?
I wouldn't think very often, but you're asking me to recall. I don't even know what time period you're asking me to recall, but I'm not going to speak to that because I just really don't know the answer to that. So I don't want to speculate as to how often that would happen. But it's not out of my practice to text two people on one text message. So if you told me that happened and showed it to me, it wouldn't surprise me, although I have no recollection of it.
But there would be some record of it in your phone, or the phone records would have some record of those texts.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. This is your district
Talk
attorney.
about, you
Is
said
this
that
your
sometimes you
kid?
paid Miss Yeardy cash.
I don't
When
think
you
I-
went,
I'm sorry.
sorry, when you went on vacation with Mr. Wade, let's just go one by one.
One by one.
Let's start with the
Nathaniel
first one. What's the first time you went on vacation with Mr. Wade?
Here we go.
I think the first time we went on vacation was around April of 22, and it's a vacation is a stretch, but I'm trying to be comprehensive. I recall April of 22. His birthday is March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure, but I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I'm trying to be inclusive. And like I said, I don't think, I know it wasn't more than a day.
Look at her now. She was mad. She smiled and talk about Mr.
I think
Wade.
that we did.
Mr.
That's what I'm telling you. I
Bartholomew.
think that there's a possibility that we stayed that
Mr.
night
Bartholomew.
in April of 22.
Who paid for the hotel?
I think I did. It
Who
was his
paid for the
birthday.
hotel? I paid.
And would you have used a credit card?
Who paid for the hotel?
Probably maybe a debit.
What happened? Who paid for the hotel?
And when did you start dating?
When I started dating Mr. Wade, it was right around then. That
April 2020?
22. Yes, it
2022.
was around then. I don't know, it's not like when you're in grade school and you send a little letter and it says, "Will you be my girlfriend?" and you check it. I don't know the day that we started seeing each other, but it was early
He just
22.
quoted his
is my
birthday. You hear this
Okay,
girl?
early 22. And you all went to Florida on vacation as well?
Wait. Who
I don't
believed
recall
it?
going to Florida on vacation with him.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
Hold on. Who believed that she don't know or any woman don't know a man that they are in love with the day that they start dating? Don't give me that. I don't want to hear that, Fanny. Fanny just, they both is some lying, no good. I don't care what come of this. It's not going to be good for them, because this is the thing about us, people like us. We think that no one else can see us, especially women. We think no one else can see us. That brother Nathaniel got up on that stand, and she is up on this stand as if this is not global news. I've been telling you guys all of my last podcast, this has global ramifications. What does that mean, Perfect? What are you saying? I'm saying Putin would be watching this. Charlie Kirk is watching this. Tucker Carlson is watching this. Why, per se? Why, Perfect, are you saying these things? I'm saying that this is global news. There's a reason why every YouTuber is showing this live right now. I don't think a lot of them really understand. I think a lot of people just want the views. And I'm not even getting a lot of views. I'm showing this for context because I've actually did the hard work. I educated my audience on the Atlanta Public Schools RICO case, the most expensive Georgia case ever, led by Fani Willis. After that case, which was a debacle, she was no longer with the DA's office. Now she's back with the DA's office, and she's doing RICO after RICO. And what I said to you is the RICOs are costing money. The RICOs are costing Georgia money. And now here we are. And she is indignant on the stand. She came in the courtroom the wrong way. Did you guys catch that? Like Ken said, she got sister girl vibes. And now she is on trial herself. Why? For how she spent the taxpayers' money. I tell you, you shouldn't be surprised. And I tell you, like I just said, like Mama would say, you guys, Fani Willis and Nathan Bartholomew, are acting like no one else can see you. But there are people who can see you who care about the money. That's why you own the trial right now, because there are people counting the dollars and cents. You may not care, but if you are a multimillionaire and 50% of your income is going to taxes, then you care about where your taxes is going. That's why she on the stand. And then when you start to hear this small YouTuber from the small corner of YouTube sector start to break down who Fani Willis is and how much of your taxpayer dollars she cost you, then you start to understand why Fani Willis is on the stand. She don't understand, but I understand that people listen to me. I don't care what the numbers say. I say people and powerful people can hear the message, Ken. I say powerful people have heard what I said, and number crunchers and penny counters want to know. That little small YouTuber said she was responsible for the most expensive prosecution in Georgia history, and she's doing it 3 times over. Can Georgia afford it? I was just having a conversation at dinner the other day. I shared with you a little bit of that conversation about the water treatment plants, the power plants, and how major cities have been affected by quarantine, by the attrition. So how much money do you think Georgia has? Most states, you hear about Gavin Newsom, most states are facing, big states are facing issues like Gavin Newsom in California. Most major cities are facing issues. You have Mississippi water. This don't get talked about a lot. You have Flint water talked about because President Obama had to go to Flint. Now Biden is running for president, but he doesn't have to go to Jackson, Mississippi and drink water from Jackson, Mississippi, but it's the same thing. No one want to talk about it. They said they need $1 billion to fix the water in Jackson, Mississippi. They got a burial ground in the back of the jail, but ain't nobody, Biden ain't going there. You don't see no Democrat blacks going there, nothing. So if this is happening in major cities across the South and across America where they can't afford to fix their water, they can't afford to bury their dead. That's how broke the cities are. If you hear about the police, they can't afford to keep police. People keep quitting. They can't afford nurses. What makes you think Atlanta can afford Fani Willis? And what makes you think that nobody is paying attention to the money she cost in Atlanta and Georgia overall? See, this is the thing I'm trying to get y'all to pay attention to. Y'all about this salacious love affair. It ain't got shit to do with this salacious love affair. It's about dollars and cents and how much this motherfucker done cost us, all for Democratic agenda. This is the thing that people are being pissed off about in Georgia, because you're spending all this money. Why? You spend all this money for your own. This is what got exposed by this affair. Because Fani Willis is spending all of your taxpayer dollars, and you thought she was doing it to benefit you because you're Democratic and she's doing it. No, she's doing this to benefit her. She the whole damn time. All damn day, y'all. All damn day. All damn day. Mac motherfucking Dre. All damn day, y'all. The whole damn time. People been backing Fani Willis thinking she's on a Democrat liberal agenda and she's doing this to help the Democrats win. But the whole time it was selfish. I told you it was Black Boule. She's doing it for her own selfish political ascension. I told you, look at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris started as a city district attorney, a prominent city, just like Atlanta. But she started as city government. No one ever talks about, I told you, when you look at Kamala Harris and you look at Fani Willis, you got to look at what her eyes are on. That Kamala Harris started as a city district attorney. Fani Willis has already been promised by the Democratic platform and power in Georgia that she is going to run for a bigger office by prosecuting Donald Trump. That's what this was all about. Remember the Bill Cosby prosecution? The district attorney won because he said, if you vote for me, I will prosecute Bill Cosby. He prosecuted him 3 times before he got him put in prison. This Fani Willis prosecution in RICO of Donald Trump is nothing but setting up a run for her. Now imagine if she would have been able to slam dunk it. It would be Fani Willis and Stacey Abrams campaigning, and then you would have these 2 black women running Georgia. Thank God, ooda lolly, that they are so sloppy. Stacey Abrams and Fani Willis are so sloppy, and their code of ethics and character is so poor that that is being exposed. Even to people who may be a fan of Fani Willis, you're going to have to say, look at her on this trial as she testified. Even if you say, girl, I can forgive you for sleeping with this man, but girl, I don't believe you should be district attorney, and I don't know if you got the in you to be a damn lawyer. That's just a fact, bro. Same thing with Nathan, because what you're seeing here is a poor character and poor ethical code. The decision making that they made was just piss poor, especially if you factor in the fact that she's district attorney of one of the biggest, most predominant Democratic cities in America during the presidential election year. So this is not going unmissed, right? So let's get back to this. And I just had to pause real quick because I need you guys to frame yourself around what we're seeing here. We're seeing the culmination of all of my hard work. I had no idea that Fani Willis would be sitting in the box, actually forced to testify. She didn't want to testify. I showed you her poor character. A judge called her out for throwing a party for Biden. He said that was poor decision-making. That was poor ethics. What were you thinking? Throwing a political party, a fundraising event for Joe Biden when you're prosecuting Donald Trump. She keeps making these same ethical errors over and over, and they keep begging you. This is the thing about this type of DEI hire, diversity, equity, inclusion. They keep making these horrible errors over and over, and they look at you because this is diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. They look at you as if you should forgive them and forego their mistakes, despite how it may affect you personally. That is the devil. That is the devil greasing you up. It's okay. Bending you over. It's okay. It's okay. That's the Democratic Party greasing you up. And you're saying to yourself, this doesn't seem right. Why am I bending over? You promised me something, and instead you're bending me over, Fani Willis. You promised me something. You promised me that you would get Donald Trump, and instead you out here sleeping with a married man, and you looking at me with this crazy face like I'm supposed to forgo what you've done. At the very least, Fani, you fucked up the bag. You were supposed to be getting Trump, and instead you worried about a married man. Can y'all understand what I'm saying? Even if you her fan, at the very least, you fucked up the bag, Fani, because your ethics are so poor you wasn't focused on the bag, Fani. That's for people who was a fan of hers. Have to admit, you are on the stand. Even if I'm on your side, you didn't got your monkey ass on the stand. That puts the Trump trial in jail. I don't care what you have to say. You got to go because you should have never let it get this far. That's the mafia style. You should have never let it get this far, Fani, that you on the goddamn stand and you making the Trump Rico look like a goddamn joke, Fani. You making us look like a joke, Fani. Donna Brazil, Donna Brazil, Donna Brazil.
When we went to get on the cruise ship, we went to Miami.
Okay, that's the only time that you went to Florida with him?
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent one night so that we wouldn't miss the ship. That's my recollection of our
Who paid for that hotel?
in Miami. I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown. And we've done that, so that I'm clear, we've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you, did we stay when the ship left or did we stay when the ship came back? I also can't tell you, so there's 2 cruises out of Miami. There's one that's in that October time period that was with his mom. And then there was another that was a New Year's Eve trip. I know I paid for the New Year's Eve trip because the tickets were $697 each. And I thought this is ridiculous that the tickets are $700 to go to Miami. But when you travel during New Year's Eve, you know, they get you.
So let's just back up and talk about the first time that you went to Florida with Mr. Wade. That was the time that you said you stayed in Miami at the hotel the first night.
That's the time I told you I am not sure. So I'm not sure of 2 things. So I want to make sure that my testimony is clear. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the October trip. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the December trip. I just can't remember that. And I also don't remember, so that the record is clear, I don't remember if the necessity was as we got on the ship or we got off the ship. But I do remember there was a night spent in Miami because either whatever, I don't remember. But I think that there was a night spent in Miami.
That cruise is the one that you took in October, right?
Ma'am, if you have something to refresh my recollection, I'm intentionally trying to not be difficult with you, but I don't want to make up something.
Right.
I know that on one of those 2 trips, I stayed in Miami. I am not sure right now. You're asking me about.
Oh, I'm sorry, you misunderstood. I was not asking you which night you stayed in Miami. I'm asking if you took a cruise in October 2022 with Mr. Wade.
Yes, and his mom.
And his mother. That's what I was asking.
Yes.
Is that the first time you met his mother?
Yes.
It was on that cruise, and that was Royal Caribbean, I believe?
I honestly don't remember what ship. I know we've taken 2 cruises. I don't know what the ships were.
But he paid for the flight and the cruise on Royal Caribbean that time.
So yes, he paid. He is the original one that does it. He has something called, Mr. Wade is a world traveler. I'm not as versed as him. He's been to 6 of the 7 continents. And so he has both a personal travel agent and he also has a cruise travel agent. I don't know anything about either of those kind of travel agents. So he is the one that would book the travel, but we need to be clear when we're talking about just because he booked it doesn't mean, like, I don't consider him having taken me anyplace. Let me just be honest. The only one that's ever taken somebody someplace is for his 50th birthday. I consider that I took him to Belize. And I took him to Belize because, I don't want to discuss his personal business, but I'm happy Mr. Wade is still here with us. And I did 50 big, very big.
Is y'all listening?
Still on that October Royal Caribbean cruise, even though he had a travel agent. I'm sorry?
Let me pause. I got to
Did
pause.
you do me a favor?
I got to pause it because did y'all hear that? She said, I did 50 big. And referring to the birthday party she threw for this man in Belize and the money she spent, she's already quoted 2 cruises and 3 vacations. But aside from his 50th birthday, and she talked about his 49th birthday, but they're going to say to you that they are no longer together, that they broke up in 2023, and it was not the relationship that you thought. But she just said, remember, as the testimony progresses, that she did 50 big. Please put a star in that for me, you guys. She just said I don't believe he took me anywhere. The only one who took someone somewhere was me when I took him to Belize, and I did 50 big. That's her testimony. That's going to go down in history.
I don't know what cruise ship, what time. So if you'll help me and say October cruise with mama or the New Year's Eve trip with his sisters, I'll be able to, we can communicate. I just don't know what ship.
October cruise with mama. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He paid for the cruise and the flights for that trip.
So he called his cruise agent and he booked that cruise because he has a cruise agent.
Right.
He also has a regular agent. I don't know the cruise agent's name.
So I wasn't asking about his travel agent. I was just asking
But
if
I'm
he
trying to-
paid for those.
He did not though.
Okay.
Because the reason I consider that he did not is I gave him his money back.
Oh,
But initially, he paid for that.
Yeah, he called his cruise agent. Like, I think they have his card on record. They do whatever.
Okay. So initially, he paid for the cruise and the flight to Miami and the Royal Caribbean cruise.
And my understanding of that October cruise is like it was a package the lady did for him.
So, and I'll get to the reimbursements and all that. I'm just trying to confirm he paid for the flight and the cruise in October.
And I think that when you say things that way, I want this record to be
Initially.
abundantly clear that he calls his travel agent, he calls his cruise agent. They do whatever he tells them. He's like on a first name basis with these people. They do it. And then he tells me how much it is and I give him the money back. I don't, just like you're asking me about the money with Robin, I don't do my friends like that. So if you tell me it's a G, then you're gonna get $1,000. Whatever it is, I didn't ever make him produce receipts to me. Whatever he told me it was, I gave him the money back.
who is this
Isn't it true that he paid
girl,
for the
you
cruise
guys?
and the flight on his credit card? I'm not asking about reimbursement or after. He used his credit card to buy the cruise and buy the flight,
I
correct?
have no idea how he paid for it.
Little
If it's a
girl.
credit card, if it's a debit card, but certainly he called his cruise agent. You know, like how many people have a cruise agent? He calls his cruise agent, tells them where they want to go. They tell him what's booked. You have to remember, he paid for, that initial was me, him, and his mother.
And then after that cruise, you all flew to Aruba and spent a couple days in a hotel there, correct?
Right, and his mother was not
And
happy.
he
and we left her
initially paid
behind
for that. He initially paid for that.
For Aruba, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba, yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you got cash to pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady,
You would not go to the ATM.
no.
So Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposits.
Okay.
Let's
So the
go.
cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank.
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house. So it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father,
What is she?
he's gonna tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times.
What?
Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that, but he does. When we were growing up, my daddy had 3 safes in the house. So my father's bought me a lockbox, and I always keep cash in the house. Now, I don't do it to the degree that my father would do it. He
Hello?
would probably be ashamed with me, but I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to, because I don't go on many dates. But when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it
I had
didn't come out of the
cash-
bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had
What
cash
the
for
hell?
years in my house.
What
So
the
for me
hell?
to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
The
I didn't
IRS
say I
don't
couldn't
want to know,
identify it.
God dog it.
Nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source
The
of money
IRS
is
is listening. I
always the
swear to
work,
God, they
sweat,
act
and
like
tears
nobody is
of me.
listening.
What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband.
And
No, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from.
Wow.
And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times,
Y'all
there's
listening?
going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
the money that you paid Mr. Wade with cash in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
Do you know which job it came from? Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private
My
job?
sweat
Came from,
and tears.
I'm not what are you talking about? So it could have come
Sweat
from
and
a
tears,
private
dog.
job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. That's probably in there.
You don't
It
know.
could have, what do you mean? I don't know where it came from. I
I
absolutely.
understand the situation. We can move on.
Okay, thanks. Same with Aruba. You don't know where that
Got
came
her.
from either, right?
Got
Ma'am,
her. You don't
You are
know.
mischaracterizing my testimony greatly. I'm not going to allow you to mischaracterize my testimony. I know that I keep money in my house. The amounts of money I gave Mr. Wade, it was never that serious. I don't think I've ever handed him more than $2,500 in a reimbursement. So we're not talking about $20,000 in cash. I
We
don't
better
have
not, because
$20,000
anything over
in cash right now.
$10,000, y'all know you
The
gotta
most I ever
declare
gave
to the
him, I know I gave him
IRS.
$2,500 when we went to
If
the
she
league.
gave him over
Because we went to
$8,000, the
one,
IRS want to know if you
hotel,
gave somebody
and then we
up
went
to
to a second
$10,000
hotel.
cash. Y'all know that, right?
$2,500 I actually gave him while we were still in the league.
Y'all, that's why
I
she's
know
trying to
that
put
the
him down, put her
Aruba
down on this.
trip, the one that you
You
described
can't
with
just
his
have
mom, I think I gave him
anything
about
up to 10,000. The IRS want to
$2,000
know.
for that trip for like total.
His mom went to Aruba.
Just
with
like with
The
academics,
Aruba trip, so I
you
consider
can't
that
give
to be one
nobody
trip.
20
We got
grand.
off of the cruise
If you
ship,
give somebody
and then
over
we
a
went
certain
to
amount of
Aruba,
money, you gotta
which is why I
declare.
cannot remember is that the time that we had to stay in Miami.
Remember
and
the
wait for
billionaire that
flight
gave all them
4.
boys money? It's a tax burden, you
So I
guys. You
consider
can't give
that one
nobody
trip, but we
money.
didn't like come back to Atlanta and leave. We flew down to Miami. We got on a cruise ship. We spent a couple of days with his mama. We came back to Miami. When we came back to Miami, either that day or the next day, we flew to Aruba. We spent a few days in Aruba and we came back. That was really
You know you done
one
fucked
trip.
up, don't
Even though we went 2 places,
You know
it
you done
was one
fucked up,
trip.
don't you?
So let's talk about the California trip. Is that when you were moving your daughter out to California? When you all went, or did you have 2 trips to California?
My daughter doesn't live in California.
Did she ever live in California?
I'm not discussing to you the location of my child.
So how many times did you go with Mr.
You
Wade?
don't understand. Wait, Judge, you guys.
And you all stayed in Napa Valley.
Whoa,
You paid for the
whoa,
plane
what
ticket
just
for the hotel?
happened?
He paid for the plane tickets
Judge,
and the hotel.
And what did you pay
is
for?
this a real
I gave him
trial?
much
You
less
can't
cash
just
that
answer
time.
a question like
$400 or
that.
$500, and then I paid for a bunch of stuff. I think we did 2 different wine tours that you do, which are pretty expensive. I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do. I can't remember how many, like 4 or 5 different
Get up,
places to go.
girl.
I remember we went to this place that they do pairings. That was the most expensive thing that I think that we did while we were there. So they would pair champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like 3 different things: Sweden, Russia, someplace else. I'll make that up. But that was the most expensive thing we did that trip, and I paid for that.
Did you pay cash?
For us doing that?
Mhm.
Yeah, that trip did not cost me a lot of money. I might have took like $750 in cash on me because we weren't gone very long. And then
I'd only asked if you paid in cash. I don't need to know the amounts.
when I travel, I always take cash.
And is the cash that you keep in your house, or do you keep it at the condo that you were living in?
So at that point, it wouldn't be at my house, and I'm sorry if I was not clear. The money would be wherever I laid my head. So I wouldn't leave the money at the house. So if I was unclear, no, money's gonna be where I stay.
How much did you pay for your trip to Panama?
To where?
Panama, I believe.
I didn't go to
I
Panama.
may have the location wrong.
I never went to Panama.
So after
Wade went to Panama with his frat brother.
Oh, he went to Panama with his frat brothers. So tell me about, let's see. So I want to make sure I've got them. I've got Belize. You already covered Belize. You covered the.
So let me tell you our real trips. In October, we went on the cruise with his mom. We got back from the cruise with his mom and we went to Aruba. I consider that one trip. Second trip, New Year's Eve, we went on a cruise to the Bahamas. That's the second trip. Let me make sure I get this right. Third trip, 100% on me. I think he might have spent $200 on that entire trip. We went to Belize. That was my trip. That was, his 50th. And then Napa Valley, we went around May. I don't know the dates, but it seems to me like it was close to Mother's Day.
And those are the only trips?
So that the record is complete. I can remember one time driving to, where were we? South Carolina, and we met my sister for lunch with her man.
When was
We
that?
didn't stay I don't know, but we didn't stay the night
Is
there,
that
but
7?
I guess people would consider
Is that
that a
7,
trip if
y'all?
you drive somewhere and you come back. That was insane because it was like 5 hours to drive. We ate lunch and we drove right back.
Right? Kids said black box
I
and
can
white box.
remember
Come on, man.
driving to some little town in
How many
Georgia.
trips is
I don't
that,
even know
y'all?
where I
7? It
was.
sound like to me
I
you
had never
pay
been
for
there
every
before or
last trip.
after. There's some boat
I'm
you can
taking
get
notes.
on
Y'all taking
over
notes?
to, and there's like a slave thing, if that gives anyone any reference. We didn't do that. I remember doing that. I remember driving one time to Charlotte. We had lunch with one of my very close girlfriends. And again,
Now
we
we
drove
had
to
8
Charlotte,
trips now.
met my
Y'all, they
girlfriend
was
for
only
lunch,
together
and
for
drove right
a
back.
period of
So that's a
time.
trip. We didn't stay the night there, but I just
She
want to
got
be complete
everything
in my
down, but she don't know
testimony.
the day that
We
they got together.
drove someplace, had lunch, drove back.
I don't think when she looks at this testimony, she's gonna be
I
embarrassed.
don't remember another driving someplace distant for
How many is that at
lunch
home,
and coming
everybody? I
back
think that's
to
about
Charlotte to
8
see a
different
girlfriend,
trips
to meet my
within a
sister
short time span of relationship.
in
Now,
South
you
Carolina.
have to keep in
We
mind
went
how
by
long they were together.
ourselves when I told you about that remote place in Georgia. We could have driven someplace else and had lunch and came back, but that's all that comes to my recollection right now. There could have been another place we drove and had lunch. My
Come on
security
now.
team was very clear to me. I'm not to be out and about in Atlanta without them. And so for me to do something just very normal that a normal person would get to do, if they weren't prosecuting this case, I got to drive 4 hours to do it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Your security detail, did they take you to and from your house?
So I haven't been able to enjoy my home.
Condo, I'm sorry.
Since
And
March of
where you lay your head? Did they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security team has never taken him?
From my house, that's a lie.
I'm
That's
asking
another,
if they've ever taken him
and
anywhere.
I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So your security team has never taken Mr.
My
Wade anywhere?
security team has never taken Mr. Wade from any place where I have lived and brought him here. Never, not once, not ever.
Have they ever taken the two of you together?
To where?
Anywhere?
We've left this building and for gone to lunch, but I go to lunch so rarely that is a very rare occasion. I am sure, and let me be clear, it wouldn't just be Mr. Wade. So I'm sure my security team has taken me to lunch. Probably been a time I've left here 7 o'clock, gone to get something to eat. And I don't even know that they would have taken him or if he would have driven himself, but they've taken me to do that. But we're talking very few, very far in between. Most days I don't even eat lunch. And when I do, it's because my assistant has heated up some bag, something, and I eat through meetings and eat in my office. It's not a practice of mine to go to lunch.
During the time period that you were dating, would your security team ever take you two together anywhere?
No.
Never.
If there was a lunch that occurred that I just described, if there was a meal that occurred that I just described, anything outside of that, and it needs to be very clear. Not often, once, twice, because I want to be over-inclusive, I'm saying once or twice. I'm not certain that it happened, but I'd rather be over-inclusive with you.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
Well, no. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any
I
problem?
object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
She
And I'm
can't
not, no,
object.
I'm not dealing with privilege. What,
Can she
we had offered
object?
to put them in camera for the court to review, and I just want to know if she has any
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
Okay, you have to file as part of your job something called the income and financial disclosure report, correct?
That's correct.
And you filed your first one, so you filed 2 today, is that right?
Is it 2 or 3? I probably would have filed 21, 22, and maybe I haven't filed 23 yet, because isn't it due like June of the next year?
April, I believe. So you filed, let's see, you filed your first one, it looks like April 15th, 2022, and your second one, April 17th, 2023. Does that sound familiar?
That, I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm gonna hope you're telling the truth now.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I already gave the state a copy, exhibit 20 and 21, if you take a look at those. They're part of the certified records that we got.
Can somebody bring me some, yeah,
From Fulton.
guys are getting a little old. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
ma'am.
those are the ones that you filed.
This looks like me for sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Judge, we'd move to admit 20 and 21.
I think you need to delineate which one's which
20
one's which.
is 2021, so it accounts for the time period, Your Honor, January the 1st, 21 through December the 31st, 2021. That is Defendant's Exhibit 20. Defendant's Exhibit 2021, it accounts for the time period, January the 1st, 2022 through December the 1st of 2022.
All right. Any objection to exhibits 20 and 21
Nope,
No,
sorry.
from other counsel? Admitted without objection.
When did your personal relationship with Mr. Wade end?
Our personal relationship ended in this year. So let's be very clear so that we don't mix words. I don't want to mix words in here. Mr. Wade is my friend right now. Mr. Wade, I would say, has been my friend since 2020. I think he started out as like a mentor and a professional colleague. He became my friend and somebody that I really respected. I feel very indebted to Mr. Wade for taking on the task of this job. And he is certainly my friend and one of the people that I respect the most. So if you ask about a personal relationship, I consider myself to have a personal relationship right now, Mr. Wade. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Anna Cross. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Mr. Abadi. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Andrew Evans.
Okay, let me just
And so
clarify that
I
before we
have
go.
a personal relationship with him as we speak right now.
A romantic
I don't think that's what you're asking. I think that's what you're asking.
relationship. When did you?
So she just admitted that this relationship started from him being her mentor. Now, and we know from Me Too that that's supposed to be taboo. But she just admitted that this started off with him in the superior role of being her mentor and colleague. And before it was sexual. And it's unbeknownst to me. I don't know why they think all of this is okay. But it definitely lets you know that they have questionable ethics. Because even if it's true, I wouldn't say. I would have to know the room. You got to know the room, right? Especially if you have political ambitions. Why would you admit that this relationship started from him being a mentor? Right? That you were in a subservient position, right? That he was a mentor, you looked up to him, and he was a colleague, and then he had sex with you while you were his mentee, and he was actually a married man, because you want to leave that out. He wants to leave that out. But people on the outside looking in, I won't leave that out. That now you further complicated you guys' relationship. Now you're saying you met in 2019, it wasn't sexual. In 2020, you became his mentee. He was your mentor, and you were looking up to him, right? He's guiding you as a lawyer, right? And somehow this mentor-mentee relationship turns sexual, and you think that's okay. But not only do you think it's okay to sleep with someone who's like a professor or a mentor, which would complicate that relationship. I think it would be more important that he remain my mentee, right? That I still have someone to guide me as a lawyer, and I look for someone else to sleep with, even if I'm attracted to him, because if I sleep with him, he no longer could be my mentor, right? I think that's more important in my career ascension. She wasn't clairvoyant enough to make that decision. We got to pay attention to that. Why wouldn't she know to make that decision? That even if I'm attracted, as a woman, you think a man would do these type of things. You think a man would say, I don't care, and I'm gonna sleep with her anyway. But a woman goes ahead and sleeps with her mentor, right? And she thinks it's okay to have this sexual relationship at this point in her career, and further complicated by the fact that he's a married man. But again, Nathan and Fani don't believe that the marriage should count because the estranged wife cheated on Nathan, right? Left him for dead, according to everybody who's not the wife and the kids. Everybody who's not the wife and the kids. But there is a family. Nathaniel was married and there's children. He said he wouldn't leave her because of the children. But all of this is getting left out when you talk about this mentor-mentee relationship that became a questionable sexual relationship, even though a man is married and even though you came to be his boss. It's layers, you guys. It's layers of complexities with this, and poor decision making and poor ethics at every turn. That they were selfish, like criminals. Then she tries to make these RICO arguments about furtherance of the. At every turn, she only cared about the furtherance of what she wanted. That she was lonely and she wanted to have this companionship with this man, and she compromised herself over and over. And like I said in my initial video that went viral, she compromised the office. She not only compromised herself with this relationship, but she compromised the office of district attorney, which is why she's on the stand, and she should have never did it. She should have never did it. That's just a fact.
Your romantic relationship with Mr. Wade end? Did it end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends. My respect for him has grown over these 7 weeks of attacks. We are very good friends. I think, but for these attacks, it would have been a friendship that as life goes, he would have stopped having. I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends to the day we die.
Right.
Let's.
Could we just have an answer to the question?
I can handle Mr. Seda. Let's have it.
She asked about personal relationship.
She asked when the romantic relationship ended. That's the question.
It's sometime in, I'd say late summer of 2023. So I don't believe men, this is what you're really asking about. This is the salaciousness of all of this, right?
No, I'm just asking about your romantic relationship, when you stopped dating. I'm asking.
I think that me and Mr. Wade, so he's a man, he probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. And so that men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place.
And where, when did he come to, I guess the condo, I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment, would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more, see what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
If you could ask a more precise question.
yes, please give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth.
Judge,
And
this
it is a lie. It is a lie.
As well.
You see.
Mr. Seda.
It is a lie.
Take 5 minutes.
It is a lie.
Be back in 5.
Get up, girl. Oh man, can y'all believe this, man? You got a lot of privilege, man. It is a lie. It is a lie. Oh my God. Let's see if we can jump forward. Let's see if we can jump forward. Okay, we're gonna jump forward.
To my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a
In
and filed
2000,
that with the court.
in
professionally.
2019,
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once.
in 2019, he's never been to your residence, any place.
I lived in my home in South Fulton before I started getting the threats that were here, a house I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of December, Mr. Wade never came to my house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents. In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
So in 2020, so you said 2019, 2020, did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He has
resided?
never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
In 20, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay, I don't understand you about that. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay,
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
all right.
And at my home in
If we're gonna
South
clarify
Fulton,
this, we'll break it there.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's, I'm gonna have to caution you. This is gonna be my first time out to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm gonna have no choice but to strike your testimony.
Okay.
So we need to break this down. Ms. Merchant's question, I
You
believe,
hear that? Come on,
asking
Judge.
whether you lived anywhere
Roll
other than
back.
South Fulton.
Come on, Judge. This ain't no television.
I did
I've
not
been
live
wondering what's
anywhere
going on.
but
I think I'm
South
looking at a
Fulton,
YouTube
Georgia.
show. This is an
2020.
actual courtroom
That
with
was
real
before I
judge.
began my
Supposed to be a
prosecution of this case,
federal
and
prosecution of
it was my
Donald Trump.
plan to only.
Let's go, Judge. Get in there,
Did
boy.
Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yurdi?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes,
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
no,
Just visited.
yeah, but he did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about,
In
during
2020.
2019 or 2020?
I would think that we probably went to lunch, but it wouldn't have been, let me think, 2019. I'm gonna say, I don't know, I'm gonna say we probably broke bread someplace in 2019. I don't remember it, but it seems like we would have broke bread sometime in 2019. So I'm gonna say yes, although I have no recollection. But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much everyone, so I'm gonna say yes.
So outside of the vacations that we've already talked about, did you
What?
ever go out to dinner?
I mentioned to you that
I'm gonna object as to what time period. Like, we're asking very vague questions. I thought we were treating the witness as hostile under 611. We're no longer doing that. So are we gonna go back and forth? We need to be more specific with our questions if we're gonna treat her as hostile.
All right, Ms. Merchant, it's not so much, I think you can elect between leading and open-ended questions, but I think we are still wondering about, and I think we need to get back on track of focusing on the financial benefit or the relationship.
And my next question about if you did go out to dinner, who paid when you went out to dinner?
he paid, I paid.
You both paid.
Okay, so let me be real clear. We didn't say, oh, the bill is $102. You give $51, I'll give $51. I don't operate like that with my girlfriends. I don't operate like that with anyone. He caught the bill, I caught the bill, whomever.
Did you ever pay him through Cash App?
No.
You only ever paid him through cash?
Well, yes. We're talking about, I'm very confused.
You've
now.
never
Like,
given Mr. Wade money through Cash App.
No,
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened is, no, we're gonna answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not gonna get an answer.
And I will ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash. Did you ever pay him anything? And I'm trying to qualify my questions. I'm not talking about the contract with Fulton County that was paid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside of that. Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given him cash a few times in the course of what we're talking about.
So you've
If
never
we
used
would
your
go to
credit card?
dinner,
Let her finish her answer.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500. The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
You never wrote him a check?
Ma'am, I don't have checks.
So you have no proof of any reimbursement for any of these things because it was all cash, right?
The testimony of one witness is enough to prove a fact.
So my
Are you
question was,
telling
do
me
you
that
have
I'm
any
lying to you? Is
proof?
that what you're intimating right here?
I'm asking if you have any proof that you
I just told you.
have no written proof. Is that correct?
So I have some, probably some transactions like in Belize. I probably spent $500 on my card in Belize. I spent $900 on each of our tickets to go to Belize. I did the $700. I probably got some minor expenses in Aruba that would be on a card. But for the most part, for those trips, other than, so the 2 cruises, I gave him money for those before we ever left. Because they were pre-booked. Let me answer.
Well, the question was if you had any written proof. And so
So I've answered you that I've had written
then we can
proof.
move to the next question. If you've answered if you had any written proof, and that was my question.
I want to make sure that we're clear that for the 2 cruises.
Judge,
and that's
I
the
asked if
cruise
she gave
plus
him written
Aruba.
proof.
We're not going to talk over each other. Ms. Merchant, she answered your question, so you can ask the next question. You can, Ms. Willis and Ms. Cross will have plenty of opportunities to let you clarify your answers when it's her turn.
Thank you, Judge. Knowing your role as district attorney, you know that public funds are scrutinized and money is scrutinized and things like that. You
No, I've
understand,
never, I'm sorry, go ahead.
you understand you're under a microscope. You have reporting requirements, all of those types of things. You have no record, other than your testimony, of the money that you've given Mr. Wade.
You've already asked that question. Let's keep going.
When you took office, you had a tax lien of $4,600. Did you pay that with cash when you made that tax lien whole?
I probably paid through, however you pay.
Okay, so, but you were saying that you had amounts of cash. You still had that lien in 2022 when you were dating Wade and going on these trips. So the cash that you gave him, that could have been used to pay this tax lien off?
You gonna tell me how to pay my
I'm gonna
bills?
object. This is not relevant as it relates to why we're here today.
Ms. Merchant, are you trying to establish that she was insolvent in some way?
I definitely was trying to establish that she did not have these mass amounts of cash that she's talking about, yes.
All right. Re-ask the question.
You had a tax lien in 2022, $4,600.
Did you say I did?
And you did not use this cash that you had to reimburse Mr. Wade to pay that off, correct?
No.
Okay.
I went shopping too when I didn't pay it off.
And you talked about, you gave a lot of interviews to some authors.
It speaks to her ethics.
Right?
I would not characterize it as a lot. I probably have spoken to them.
You're not
2 or 3 times.
My question is relevant as to.
I think it's already come up. Finances are discussed in the book. I'll overrule that.
Thank you.
Ms. Willis, you can continue your answer.
Well, it came up with Mr. Wade as it relates to hearsay statements that he was asked about in relation to what Ms. Willis may or may not have said in relation to an author. So it's not relevant to the testimony that's occurring at this time.
I think Ms. Merchant has said that inside the book, she also makes a statement as to her own finances, and that's at issue.
So you gave interviews to the authors of this book, correct?
Once or twice.
Okay. And
Just to be comprehensive. I don't know if it was 3 times, 2 or 3 times, I think.
you were quoted in the book, and I will give you a chance to say if this is a misquote. You were quoted, when they asked you about if you wanted to run for office for DA, you were quoted, "I really don't want to be financially effed up again." Do you remember saying that?
So what that refers to,
My question first is if you remember saying that.
I remember saying something similar to that, but I would like to be able to explain what that's in
fine.
reference to.
Get her.
That's not in reference, huge sacrifice to be district attorney in Fulton County, huge. I was doing just fine. I had a municipal court judgeship that was paying me $100-something thousand a year, and like you got to show up twice a week. Easiest thing I've ever done in life. I also had private clients that were paying me to represent them, so I was able to have a law practice and that. Raising 2 daughters by myself, there were times in life where things were hard. And so I was telling people, I don't really run for DA. I don't want to run for DA. I'm in a good position right now. I got this easy job that I enjoy, being the chief judge of the city of South Fulton. I'm making money at the law firm, and I'm not sure that I want to make this sacrifice. And why does it always have to be me? Eventually, I prayed. I think that I was the appropriate person. I think that I did that. So when you're referring to that, what I'm saying is, why should I make a sacrifice again? And what I was not talking about is being district attorney. Once you get elected district attorney, you're in a fine financial position. I make over $200,000 a year. What I was talking about is I ran for judge. When I ran for judge, I took $50,000 of my personal money out of my retirement. And that money ended up being lost. And I know when you bet on yourself, you're going to have to bet money on yourself. And so what I was talking about was not wanting to go through the personal financial expense of running for office. By no means did I think that I was going to be financially in a bad position once I won. Let's talk about what I was up against, because it's important to understand that comment. I had a district attorney who had been here for 24 years. People, no, it's very relevant as to what my mindset was about this. So I'm trying to answer your question. So what I was saying is
Tailored solely to finance.
right, but it is about my finances. If I didn't, nobody put me in this seat. So I had already run for office once. I had spent $50,000 of my own money running, and it was nothing. And so when I'm talking to those offers, I'm talking about the contemplation of the sacrifice of the run, not the sacrifice of once you become DA. The odds were against me. I was likely going to lose the election based on who I was running against. So that needs to be in the appropriate context.
Isn't it true that the authors also wrote, and you can dispute this if you'd like, that you were broke after that race?
The 2018 race.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a hard race. I wasn't broke like I didn't have any. So broke is relative to depending where you are, but that hurt to lose that $50,000. So I'm sure my mental mindset was like, I just gave $50,000 away.
Right. So they characterized it from their conversations with you that you were broke, you had poured your own money into the campaign, and you weren't able to pay your own bills because of your clients couldn't pay their bills to you, and you had a paltry array of family and asset forfeiture cases. It says you were trying to make it month to month. Is that an accurate depiction of your financial situation at that point?
I would want to read that, but I don't remember clients not being able to pay their bills. Or
May I approach this?
you can't.
You may.
Page 30.
I have not read this book. So like this fact here, her ex-husband Fred had run into a financial, I have no information
I
about
didn't
that.
ask about that. I just asked about if what they represent from their interviews with you, that you were broke and that you had clients that weren't able to pay their bills.
Can you show me where that is? Because this is where you put the tab, so that's where I read.
Broke, couldn't pay their bills.
Yeah, I'm sure I characterized myself as broke as leaving that $50,000. I don't know that I had her nascent law practice at paltry array.
Well, you just
I didn't have.
Ms. Murphy.
I thought I had a law practice. So this is not correct. I'm sure it's just, I didn't have any asset forfeiture cases. So I had one case where they had took one of my clients' money at the airport. I don't know if that's what I don't know. Paltry rate. I did have family law cases. I guess that's what they're talking about. And clients who couldn't pay their bills ain't clients, so no.
So my question was just if this was a fair and accurate representation where it says you were trying to make it month to month at that time.
No, I don't think that is actually a fair and accurate representation, but I am certain that after the 2018 election, I'm still not really happy about having given up that $50,000.
You know when you paid your tax lien?
I don't.
You don't? You know if you paid it?
I know I've paid some taxes. I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
Did you tell anyone at Fulton County Board of County Commissioners about your relationship with Mr. Wade?
No.
Did you disclose your relationship to anybody at Fulton County?
No, I don't think so.
And as the chief law enforcement officer of Fulton County, I assume that you're familiar with the county code and ordinances?
I've said we're not going to cover that in this hearing, Ms. Merchant.
I'm sorry, Judge?
We said we weren't going to cover the county regulations.
Okay, and I won't. Let me ask you this then. So are you aware that you're required to disclose any relationship with someone that you contract with in Fulton County?
I'm gonna object to the court's prior ruling that you made this morning.
Would this be different because it's a potential for impeachment?
Yes.
What did you ask me?
Ms. Merchant, do you re-ask the question?
Okay. Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Okay. So it's not so it's your understanding that you don't have a duty to disclose the
She's
relationship?
answered that question. Let's keep going.
Did you keep track of this cash that you paid him at all?
What are you talking? I don't understand.
Did you keep track? Did you keep a ledger? Did you keep track of it?
So I've only given him cash, as I mentioned, 3 or 4 times. There's no ledger. This is friends handing money off to each other.
So the answer is no. You didn't keep
And I think
track.
you've already asked whether there was any written proof whatsoever. And she's
Yes.
answered that.
Okay.
So we've covered this. Let's move on.
Who were you referring to when you suggested that Mr. Roman's motion to disqualify was racially motivated?
We already said we're not talking about the forensic misconduct that's been alleged.
And
And just so the record is clear, I don't believe I said that his motion was racially motivated, so I don't want that to stay there. I've never said his motion was racially motivated, so that should not be true.
I think it would be best if we don't need to go down that road. We're going to save that for argument.
you once said that you would not engage with a personal relationship with anyone that worked for Fulton County. Is that correct?
An employee?
Anyone that worked for Fulton County.
I think I said an employee.
So that's the qualification you give an employee. You would.
I think that's the statement that I made. So if you want to quote me accurately.
So it's your position because Mr. Wade was not an employee, or it's your position he wasn't an employee, correct?
Mr. Wade is not an employee, and he will tell you that over and over again.
Just one moment, Judge. I'm sorry, the statement, just so I make sure I accurately quote you. What you said was you won't sleep with people who work under you. Do you not consider Mr. Wade working under you?
I consider Mr. Wade to be an agent.
An agent?
All
Yeah,
right.
an appointee is what I really think of him as.
Your point, whatever merit it has, Ms. Merchant, is on the record.
Thank you.
Next question. All right. Do we need any moments in a minute? Mr. Sadow.
Yeah, I'm ready to go, Your Honor.
All right.
Ready to
I'm
go.
going to try to ask you questions that you can actually answer without having to explain, okay?
Yes, sir. My comprehension skills are pretty good, so we should do all right.
We shall soon see. If I heard you correctly, you moved into what I will refer to as the Yurti condo in either March or April of 2021. Is that correct?
Sometime between late February and April. Yes, I don't. Just so we're clear, yes. But in that time period, you're in the ballpark. we're in the ballpark.
And is that Yerty condo, would you say that it is in Hapeville?
It is in Hapeville, yes, sir.
And you moved in there for safety reasons?
My father, yes, I moved in there. We were concerned. My father was terribly concerned about me continuing to live at the house. And so they were clear. People came to my house at 5:00 in the morning about the police brutality cases, saying I was going to have a wake-up call. There were security threats due to gang cases, and there were concerns due to that was at the very beginning of this, looking into that. And so for all of those reasons and what was happening, my father wanted me out the house, and begrudgingly I left.
Okay, so the answer to the question was yes for safety reasons, correct?
Those were all of the things that caused the safety concerns. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not questioning whether they are or are not safety concerns. I just asked that you moved into this condo, Yerty condo,
Right.
for safety reasons, right?
Yes,
At the time that you moved into the condo, be it from February to April of 2021,
yes,
was your father still living in your house?
right, because my father,
That's
yeah,
all I ask you.
but I get to explain the answer, sir.
I don't know if there's an explanation. If I ask you, was your father still living at your house? The answer is either he was or he wasn't.
Yes, but you are going to get to argue at the end of this, as we both
I'm
know.
not gonna argue
And so
anything.
I
I'm
would
gonna
like to
ask-
be able to explain why.
I'm gonna,
So,
okay.
yes, because my father is an older gentleman, he was worried about COVID and he stayed.
Ms. Willis, I'm gonna have to say that's the second time. Whenever we have to put a pause, stop testifying, okay? You'll have a chance to explain yourself. The question was whether your father was not staying there at the time, and you're clarifying that in your answer as well. You can have a brief clarification, but it shouldn't be something that reaches well beyond the question. All right, Mr. Sadar, you can re-ask the question. We'll see where it takes us.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor. Was your father still living in your house at the time you moved to what I would refer to as a Yerty condo?
Yes, sir, he was, due to his concerns related to COVID.
Okay. The safety concern was that there was potential danger at your house. Is that correct?
Yes, my address had been exposed, so yes, there was concerns about potential danger at my house.
Okay, so anyone staying at your house in the time period after you went to the Yerty condo was still in danger, correct?
Yeah, well, no, he did.
I think you have to, it's your attorney, Ms. Willis. Sorry, Mr. Bott, your objection is speculation
Yes.
to the question of
Speculation.
whether someone was still in danger at her condo,
I can,
Just let her answer the question.
or Mr. Sadon wants to rephrase.
No,
I'm not
I
sure.
was able to
I've got
understand it.
I've got the objection, and then I have,
I'll withdraw the objection. You can move forward.
Okay,
So, and I remember the question, so I can answer it.
but you can now that the objection's been withdrawn. Can you try to answer that question? Was
Yes,
there still a safety concern
I was.
for people staying at the house?
Yes, I was very concerned about my father still living at the house. However, if you have dealt with an older gentleman, he was not leaving the house, despite my urging him that I thought he should leave as well. He did not want to leave the house because he was particularly worried at his age about COVID. But that became, I don't want to say, I was not happy with that decision of my father's, but I can't ultimately make him leave, and he stayed there too long, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. During that period that you left to go to the Yerty condo,
Yeah.
did any of your children stay at your house?
So I don't think that they were there at that point. Certainly my baby wasn't there.
I'm talking about this entire period. We're talking about, if I remember correctly, and you'll correct me, I'm sure, you said that you stayed there at what I would call the Yerty condo until January of 2022, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so I'm asking you in that period, which would be February to April of 2021 until January of 22, did any of your children stay at your house?
and you don't have to yell at me. I'm able to understand. So I would ask you to not yell at me. That being said, I don't actually expressly remember, but I can tell you, since I have left my home, there have been times my oldest daughter came in. But I can't tell you with certainty the time window that you've said. if they did or not. So I don't want to speculate to that, but there was some time that my oldest daughter came back. Whether it was that period or after I left the Yurdi residence, I'm not sure, okay?
Okay, so if I continue to go into more detail on this, you're not going to be able to give me an answer of whether or not, in fact, any of your children were still at the house or stayed at your house during that time period, correct?
What I can give you clarity of, so that we are clear, is from the time I moved out in February-ish of 2021, after I left there was a time period that my oldest daughter came back. But if you're asking me, was it in that window or after, I just don't have a recollection of that, because, you know, the kids come and they go. And so I don't remember the specific time period, and I apologize for that.
Did your children ever stay with you at the Yurti condo?
Like maybe a night,
Okay.
like for a girls' night or something, but live with, no.
Okay. Did anyone else stay with you at the Yurti condo,
Uh,
including Miss Yurti?
Never. Miss Yurdi never lived in the condo. She met her husband and they moved. They weren't quite married, but they moved. Nobody ever lived with me in the condo. That was
My word was stayed, not lived. Stayed with you at the condo.
I guess I don't understand the distinction, but no one ever, I think my baby's, my oldest child, I think she spent one night with me, maybe my oldest and my youngest. But I think that whole time I was in that place, other than that one night, I don't think anyone ever, there was a very lonely period in my time life. I don't think anyone ever spent the night other than maybe one night. I remember a picture of my baby sitting on the couch in that place, and I'm thinking she spent that night. But just a very lonely time in life.
Okay. We'll stay with the lonely theme just for a minute. Did Nathan Wade visit you at the Yurti condo from the time you moved in until he was hired on November the 1st of 2021?
So I moved out of that condo, but during that time period, I'm sure he came to visit. He came to visit. I can remember us going, I think the restaurant's Lickety Split. I can remember him picking me up, going to Lickety Split and ordering some food, and coming and sitting at my table and eating. So I remember times that he visited me at that condo, yeah.
Okay, could you give us an approximation of how many times Mr. Wade visited you at the condo between the time you moved in and prior to November 1 of 2020?
I don't think often, but I don't want to speculate.
Can we say more than 5, more than 10?
I'm gonna tell you the problem I'm having here. Let's say more than 10, but I'm not sure that that's even accurate. He certainly has come and picked me up, gone and grabbed some food to eat. I don't remember him being in that condo a lot.
Okay, that's
I'm sorry. You want a number, and what I don't want to
You're
do.
giving me your current and best recollection is all I'm asking for.
That's all I can give you, sir.
How many times did any of the prosecution team, how many times did Anna Cross come to that condo between the time you moved in and November 1st of 2021?
I don't think Anna's ever been to that condo.
What about any other prosecutor that's involved in the prosecution of this case?
I don't think any of them have.
Just Mr. Wade.
That's correct, sir.
But it was a lonely time.
Oh my God, that 2021, I have a lot of guilt about this time period in my life. Let me tell you why. But yes, it was a lonely time.
Okay.
I was very appreciative to the citizens for giving me this responsibility and this duty. But what I very, very quickly learned is that this is a very isolating job, and 2021 was a lonely time. I turned 50 in 2021. That's probably one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. I spent it alone. So I have a clear recollection of 2021 being lonely.
Okay. Did Mr. Wade ever come visit you at the condo, the time period I'm talking about, prior to November of 2021, when Ms. Yurti was at the condo?
So Miss Yurdi and me, we didn't share the condo at the same time.
So the answer would be no.
But we never stayed there together, so it's an
Oh, I'm saying-
impossibility.
It's an impossibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Miss Yurdi, because we need to get clarification on this. Miss Yurdi stayed in that place, There may have been a time that me and Mr. Wade visited, like went and saw Miss Yurdy, but me and Miss Yurdy never lived there together. Just so we're clear.
Well, maybe that was clear, but I'm going to have to try again.
Okay.
Was Miss Yearty still living in the condo when you moved in?
Not a day.
Okay, so what I'm talking,
Misrepresentation in this. We never lived together. I never lived with Miss Yurdy.
my question though, I'm trying to understand
Okay.
that after you moved in to the condo, Miss Yearty she was out of the condo, right?
She got a house.
That's all I'm asking. She's not in the condo.
We never stay, Miss Yurty and I never stay a day together in the condo. All of her stuff was out of the condo, and all my stuff, some of my stuff, not all of it obviously, was moved into the condo. So we never stayed there together. No, sir.
All right. So when I asked you about Mr. Wade visiting the condo, when you were staying there,
Yes,
Miss Yearty wasn't staying there, correct?
that would be correct. Yes.
She wouldn't be at the condo, correct?
No, she would not have been.
It would be you and Mr. Wade alone at the condo, correct?
Yes.
That is, there weren't any other witnesses to Mr. Wade and you at the condo, correct?
Yes.
No security, none of your security
I
detail.
would object. She said it was just her and Mr. Wade.
You made your point, Mr. Sadow. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes, Your Honor. Who in the prosecution team prior to, I guess, the motion being filed by defendant Roman, who in the prosecution team knew of your personal relationship, and now I'm talking romantic, with Mr. Wade?
So, sir, I am extremely private.
All I ask you is who knew. It's not, if the answer is no one knew, that's fine.
No.
I ask you who knew.
Answer
me just tell
answer
you
it and then explain this, Willis.
I am very private. When I supervised Mr. Body and Mr. McAfee, they didn't know who I was dating, but I can assure you I was dating somebody. So that I kept something private, that's my private life, is not any mystery to anyone. It's like a woman doesn't have the right to keep her private life private. And I'm speaking on this because there have been all these intimations.
You still haven't answered the question, Ms. Willis.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Your Honor?
Is there anyone else who knew about it? And then you can explain.
I don't know. I don't think so. I certainly didn't go out telling my business to the world.
Okay, so the best of your recollection, you didn't inform anyone on the prosecution team that the individual that you had chosen to lead the prosecution team had a personal relationship with you.
So
Is that correct?
That's inaccurate. Your question is inaccurate.
What?
Because you stated that the person I chose, we had a personal relationship. So we had a friendship. We have all these distinguishing factors. Remember, when I chose him in November of 21, first of all, let's get this straight. Mr. Wade was not actually my first choice. That's no insult to him. No, it is you, because of the way you phrased the question. You said, when I chose him, I didn't inform people of a personal relationship. We have defined personal as romantic. It is an inaccurate way to state the question.
And I will certainly restate it so it is very accurate.
Okay, and please do not yell at me.
You hired Mr. Wade for the first time on November 1st of 2021, correct?
November of 2021, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Your testimony is, whether one accepts it or not, your testimony is that at the time you hired Mr. Wade, there had never been a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade before you hired him, correct?
Yes, my testimony is that we were very good friends, but we're talking about a sex, so let's just don't.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm saying romantic relationship doesn't necessarily have to be just sex.
Well,
It can be dating, it can be holding hands, it can be any of those things that one might call romantic. I'm asking you whether or not prior to November 1st of 2021,
Let's go.
there was a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade. It's very simple. It's either a yes or a no.
I
Yes
don't
or
consider my
no?
relationship with him to be romantic before that. I'm not a hand holder, so no.
Okay, that's fine. Now, let's move beyond November 1st of 2020,
Yeah.
2021, excuse me. If I understand your testimony, there was no romantic relationship with Mr. Wade until early in 2022, whether it be January or February or March, early in 2022, correct?
I would say sometime between February and April. Yes, sir.
All right. Now I'm asking you about that time period when it became romantic,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay. You didn't see the need, if I understand, to tell any of the people on the prosecution team when you had established a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade that the lead prosecutor, that is the man that was basically giving orders to others, was dating or having a romantic relationship with you, correct?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point, Your Honor.
That is
No.
the whole case.
Just to prove or attempting to show that there is an issue on the credibility about the relationship. The failure to have informed anyone on her team that she was having a romantic relationship
Incredible.
with
Let's
the lead
go.
prosecutor, I suggest gives rise to that inference. That's the relevance.
The inference that
The inference that they were concealing this because it was not as it's been characterized to the court, and that in fact it started earlier than what they say.
all right, overall, Mr. Sadon.
I just want to make sure that we're clear. From at least 2020, me and Mr. Wade were friends. At least that time period.
Okay, I'm not talking
So
about.
no, I want to be clear because my credibility is being evaluated here, right? We were
Yes.
friends. We hung out prior to November of 2021. In November of 2021,
I think that's
I
enough
hired-
that she hired her good
I
friend.
do not consider our relationship to have become romantic until early of 2022.
Hired her
'Cause I don't know
mentor.
what date and
Remember, she
time.
said mentor.
I'm saying sometime between February and April of 2022, and very early April of 2022, because I know that trip that I discussed with you was like the first week of 2022, that the relationship had become romantic. I hope that answered your question, but I can't have it where, we're saying something differently.
All right, so you've established the timeline.
It
as
sounds
you
like in
put it. The
2021
question
they were
originally
building the
was,
relationship.
at the
Everybody,
time-
does that sound like right
At
to
that
you?
time, did you tell any other prosecutors?
I never tell people at work who I'm dating.
All right, Mr. Sadon.
Did you take any trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
Never.
Did you take, okay, so you have no, what I would call personal trips or business trips to DC with Mr. Wade?
I never went to DC with Mr. Wade, personal, business, otherwise, never.
Okay, so,
I've never been in the District of Columbia with Mr. Wade or Maryland, Virginia, the DMV as they call it.
so as I understand it, to be clear, any trips that you would have taken to see DC,
That was,
Would not-
that was a pretty clear answer.
huh?
That was a pretty clear answer.
Asked him
She just said no.
twice.
So you have a variation or something new to bring up.
I'll ask it and we'll see. Did you take trips to DC that were non-business during the time period that this case or this matter was under investigation?
I'm going to object as to relevance as it relates to the matter that we're here before Your Honor.
Well, again, the question already asked is, did you take personal or business trips? She said.
But that was with
personal
Mr.
or
Wade.
business.
That was with Mr. Wade. This I asked her alone whether she took.
Okay.
What's the
And
relevance?
what would be the relevance of that?
I tried to understand whether or not we have an ability to show a personal trip in which Mr. Wade is there at the same time. I understand her answer. Okay, I understand her answer, but we have documents, we have records that
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the documents, the things.
Well, this could be something that's maybe not part of the record yet, but if he has I think there have been other things discussed in this case, and they have evidence that Mr. Wade may have been in DC at the same time. If you want to ask about that exact specific date, Mr. Sadon, you can do that.
I would reference to the court that that was not asked of Mr. Wade. Anything about any trips to DC.
Sure. And so that's going to limit its merit and impact on credibility. So Mr. Sadon asked the question.
So
whether, I understand your testimony is you never took a trip to DC with Mr. Wade,
that's correct.
personal or business.
That's correct.
Were you ever in DC at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was not.
On personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to DC at the same time. However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to DC. Since Mr. Wade has been on to this case, I've been to DC. What has not happened is we have not been in the District of Columbia at the same time. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with what you asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area, but I know that I have been to DC. I did an interview at Howard University. I went to DC for that. Seems like I've been to DC one other time. Oh, I went to DC for the Global Summit. Actually, yeah, those were two separate trips.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll just ask it, and Your Honor can decide whether or not it's appropriate. When you went to DC, did you go to the White House?
Objection.
I did not go to the White House.
No, well,
Apparently, I'm going to get the answer anyhow.
there you have it. Next question.
Okay. You indicated your best recollection was that your relationship with Mr. Wade, the romantic relationship, ended, you left it in August of 2023. That sound right?
That's the hard conversation. That's not the,
We've covered this. Next question.
And you characterize it as a tough conversation, correct?
yes,
I'm not going to get into the conversation per
we
se.
should.
Well, if he doesn't want to, we won't go there. So, Mr. Sager, next question.
You know, it's kind of hard to say no when you've got that opportunity. But all I'm going to say is was it pre-indictment in this case?
So,
We know the timeline that the indictment was delivered.
but,
actually,
and so that
I'll
we're
give you
clear,
that.
the
Okay.
physical relationship ended pre-indictment.
And is that when you were talking about the tough conversation?
But I'm not sure that the tough conversation didn't happen until after, but the physical relationship, so I'm sure if you ask Mr. Wade, because he's a male, he would say we ended June or July, because physical contact ended then. Just in my mind, being a woman, it's over when you have that like hard conversation. I just think women and men think differently.
And I think the answer, Mr. Sager, to your question was she's not sure whether it was before or after the indictment.
Well, I'm not sure that was her answer, but let's see if I can get specific.
That is what I said. That's what I said.
I'll let you, next question, Mr. Sager. If you need to
I want to say
clarify.
one more. The romantic relationship ended before the indictment was returned, yes or no?
To a man, yes.
Well, to a man, yes. To you, no?
She's explained this, Mr. Sager. She's explained this.
And did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that? Or was it just a coincidence?
Mister, let's go on and have the conversation.
No, I've just asked you whether or not it was a coincidence.
Had absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
No,
Sure.
I'm sure we'll talk about it further.
No, we're not going to talk about it further.
All right, no back and forth, Mr. Sager. Next question.
My next question is something that has to do with what I've characterized as the church speech. Let me just tell you what the question is, because I know that's not something.
Preserve it for the record.
Huh?
You can preserve the question for the record, but then we'll move on.
That's correct. Thank you. When you gave what I've referred to as the Martin Luther King weekend church speech, you know what I'm referring to?
A great honor of mine. That's a historic African-American church. Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you have handwritten notes with you that you were reading from during the speech?
And on second thought, Mr. Sager, because you might have a number of questions about this, why don't we just bullet point what you would want to cover on this, preserved for the record, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Since I had laid out before that the forensic misconduct isn't a
So
subject.
do I not get an answer for that?
That's right.
Okay. Did you read your speech?
Well, no, Mr. Sager, for everything related to any forensic.
Oh, you just want me to stay out of it now?
We're just not, we can do it in a bullet form if you just want to cover what you would have asked, but it's not in a question and answer format.
Okay, so I should do that at this point or do it
Sure.
when you're ready?
We can do it right now, so it's fresh on.
I'm going to ask her about Did she prepare the speech? Did she have notes on the speech? Did she read the speech? When did she do this? When did she write the speech? Who was she referring to when she was talking about others? Who was she referring to when she said they? Who she was referring to when she spoke in terms of their, that is.
I would love to answer those questions.
Well, Ms. Willis, you could certainly do that in some other format, but for today, that's what we decided we're not going to cover.
Who was she talking about that was playing the race card, and why she didn't tell people at the church that she had had a personal / romantic relationship with the, all due respect, the way it was characterized, the black man that she was referring to, and was the black man she referring to, was that Mr. Wade?
Okay.
That's that area of inquiry.
Noted for the record, Mr. Sadow. Next topic.
Okay. I realize that you've testified that you have no records that with regard to cash payments,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Would your bank records reflect that you withdrew cash from your bank accounts during the time period of 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2023? I'm not asking you, I'm just asking whether they would reflect that you withdrew cash from any of your bank accounts.
So the exact amounts?
No, just
But yeah,
that you
of
did.
course, I withdrew money throughout that time period, throughout my life. I withdrawn money from the bank. Yes, of course.
Talking about cash from, that is that you go to a
Cash,
bank
right.
or you go to an ATM
Cash.
and you take cash out.
Either that way, or you go to Publix and you overpay, or you go to another store and you overpay. So yes, both through that, yes, of course they will reflect that at times.
Okay, and so those records, if we had them, would show that, correct?
That throughout the course of my life, I took out money.
I was very specific. I said
Yes, during the course of
2020.
that time period, I would have taken money out, yes.
So do you have a problem with,
I absolutely, yes.
you don't want the bank records to be made available for the court and the court
I'm
alone?
going to object as to the relevance, and this has already been addressed earlier as it relates to other records. This is an improper line of questioning. He's doing it for the purpose of harassment. Right, Your Honor.
I'm just going to sustain it on relevance.
No,
Mr. Sadow,
we need to know where this magical money is coming
follow
from.
You can do
We
that.
need to know where the magical money is
Last-
coming from.
Area, briefly.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the question.
You had contact with Mr. Wade in the year 2020, correct?
Ooh, I had some contact with Mr. Wade.
Would you explain when you say some contact? Please tell us, talk about 2020.
I had some contact with Mr. Wade in 2020. One of the reasons your allegations are so preposterous, or mismerchants that you have joined, is
Ma'am,
No, no,
I
no,
didn't
no,
ask you about the allegations. I asked you about your contact. That's all I ask you, okay? I appreciate that you want to say something, but I'm interested in, did you have contacts with Mr. Wade in 2020? And your answer so far has been yes, correct?
very limited contact because Mr. Wade had a form of cancer that makes your allegations somewhat ridiculous.
And I do appreciate the
I'm not going to
characterization.
emasculate a black man, but I'm just telling you.
I'm
that
sorry, what?
I'm not going to emasculate a black man. Did you understand that?
All
Well, I
right,
don't
let's
think
get
we should
back on
discuss
track.
further.
Mr. Sadow, next question.
Trying to, Your Honor. Would you tell us on the occasions in 2020 that you had contact with Mr. Wade?
I'm sorry, I thought I had answered that. Yes, sir, there